subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Open automatically when it touches the skin. In an instant, a red light shot out, like a scanner, quickly passing over Gwen's body. Before she could react, the scene in front of her suddenly changed drastically. It's like there's a vortex, devoured her into another world. My spider telepathy is not responding. As soon as this idea came to Gwen's mind, she realized that she was already outside the Earth, and the azure blue planet seemed to exude a layer of ancient existence, Seb, mysterious and magnificent. She couldn't help taking a deep breath. Please name the character. The sound of machinery rang in my ears. God, it turns out that this game really doesn't need a computer, but a holographic simulation. No, how could the holographic simulation be so real? It's just a bracelet. How did you do it? Am I transmigrating with my real body now? Or has my consciousness entered the other world? Gwen was also an out-and-out student master in college, but she couldn't figure out the reason behind it, so she could only create characters step by step under the guidance of the game system. For the image, please refer to the Gwen Spider in Spider-Man Parallel Universe. After the character is created, the system's prompt sound appears again. Is it allowed to scan the player's body data to obtain matching attributes? In this game, the starting attributes of the players are actually different. Gwen was startled. Although she doesn't play games very much, she also knows that whether a game can last for a long time, the most important thing is balance. But this does not seem to exist in Oasis. Out of vigilance, she hesitated for a while. After all, he couldn't hold back his curiosity and agreed to scan his body attributes. Player, Ghost Spider, Identity, Student, Ability, Gene becomes God. To be activated, Strength, Level 4. Intelligence, Level 4. Speed, Level 3. Endurance, Level 3. Skill, to be activated. Equipment, none props, none fortune, none copy gold coin, none genes become gods. Ability to be activated? What do you mean? Level 4 strength, what kind of strength? Gwen looked bewildered. This kind of doubt, as she fell from space and appeared in Twist City, quickly turned into shock and disbelief. She found a remote alley and punched the wall casually, and there was a boom. The concrete and steel walls were blown away by the punch. Great Crab Special. It turns out that this is the power of Level 4. Just like me in real life, the characters in the game have perfectly copied my physical fitness. She couldn't help but swear, and at the same time, a guess came to her mind. This game doesn't seem to be for ordinary people, but for people with super abilities. No wonder Hulk endorses the game. This is literally a game developed for Mutant. By this time, even if she hasn't contacted other players and hasn't compared the data with each other, she probably understands that she with super abilities is different from ordinary players. Obviously, the game bracelet can scan out your own body data, but cannot scan out your real ability. That's why there is such a simple and straightforward guide. It seems that only players who are recognized as mutant by the bracelet will have the ability to be activated. And this, in fact, allows mutant players to expose their abilities. How can anyone want to do that? Even if someone is willing, how can you be sure it's true? Questions came to mind one after another, and Gwen was suddenly full of curiosity about the developer of the Oasis game. She activated her abilities very seriously. The Properties panel changes. Ability, Spider Gene Skills, Spider Telepathy, Spider Physical Ability, Self-Healing Factor. At this point, she began to formally explore the world of Oasis. Then you know the charm of this game. Players can not only re-experience a brand new life in this virtual world, but also enjoy the dream of extraordinary in each instance. The copy is the fun of this game. Gwen is a person who likes to watch movies very much, so in the list of copies, she first chose a copy of movie experience, Fast and Furious. With her ability, no matter whether the dungeon is decent or villain, they are not her opponents at all. But she was having so much fun because she found that in this dungeon, she can unscrupulously fight against gangsters, international smuggling organizations, criminal organizations, FBI, and other crimes. In this aspect, she has exercised her control and development of her ability. On the other hand, it also allowed her, a newly promoted Spider-Man, to accumulate various experiences in fighting against criminal organizations. Or is this just a game? This is simply a portable training space. There is no super ability user who can resist such a temptation, right? For a moment, Plaid completely forgot the passage of time, wandering wantonly in the dungeon. Her driving skills are average, but she can shoot cobweb-tied behind the high-speed vehicles, flight like a kite. That feeling fascinated her. But after all, this is something she can experience in reality. So when the progress of the dungeon reaches 60%, she quits and chooses another dungeon of Pokemon. No girl can refuse Pokemon. So, she wasn't in the least bit addicted to it by accident. Oh my god, the completion of the dungeon is more than 50%. And you can get a Pokemon reward? Wow, Pikachu is so cute. Whoa, I want this too. How do game developers grow their brains? How can they design so many wonderful dungeons? Underworld? Vampire versus werewolf? I'll try to. The night was getting darker. George Stacy, who was still working overtime at the police station, suddenly received a call from his wife. What? Gwen hasn't come home yet? No one answered the phone. Be right back. Director George, who was a serious daughter slave, hung up the phone with a bang and rushed out of the office in a hurry. A group of police detectives were left looking at each other. How about we also get off work? Chapter 85 severe internet addiction patients are about to sweep the world. Unbeknownst to Gwen, the Oasis bracelet is not a purely technological product. Among them, the detection magic of branding has been improved according to the brainwave recognition of Professor X, which can identify whether the player is a mutant, but cannot clarify the specific ability. B. Once the bracelet is activated, it is connected to the player's soul. This kind of connection is quite weak, and it will not cause damage to the player's soul, and those with high soul strength will not be able to detect it. That is, as long as players don't master the method of deceiving their souls. There is nowhere to hide what their super abilities are. If Lynn wants, she can even peek into their memories. So in essence, the world of Oasis is like a realized brain wave strengthening device, which connects the player's consciousness together, and then through many magical manifestations, forms shirt sewn. The so-called activation ability, it's just an illusion. After all, no one likes to run naked. If you scan the wristband and list all the abilities of mutant players, it will definitely cause unnecessary panic, so that you are afraid of Oasis like a tiger. That's not what Lynn wants to see. In this case, if a super ability player arranges his abilities at will, it is definitely fine, but the game system will treat him as an ordinary player, and if he wants to modify it back in the future, he will have to pay huge amounts of price. The world of Oasis is basically 2 games for ordinary people and superpowers. The game process and copy difficulty are different. Even the system will limit the ability that is too powerful. After all, the super abilities in this world are all kinds of strange things, and some of them are really incomprehensible. No matter how hard ordinary players try, they will not be able to catch up, which will undoubtedly greatly disrupt the balance. Superman belongs to the restricted one. Yes, as a reporter, Superman definitely downloaded the X Daily and looked for materials from it on weekdays, so he also saw Hulk's endorsement, and then signed up. When Lynn saw his registration information, she gave him a spot without any hesitation. This thing surpasses the current technological level of the Earth. After experiencing the world of Oasis, Superman Clark Kent quit the game, with a somewhat satisfied and regretful expression on his face. It's a pity that because of his ability, he can only play a part in the game. But the satisfaction is because he experienced the hearty battle in the dungeon. He chose a copy of Godzilla. Since the last battle with General Zod, he has become more and more accustomed to his super ability. However, on Earth, the enemies he faced were too weak to even interest him. He is not a belligerent person, but occasionally there will be a feeling of being overwhelmed by the heights. Until just now, a big battle with Godzilla, he directly chose head-to-head confrontation. Super strength versus super strength, super defense versus super defense, heat vision versus atom breathing. The ultimate collision made him feel the long-lost excitement and exhilaration. Clark is very clear that everything just now is illusory, but it felt so real. It was so real that he was a little obsessed unconsciously. No wonder the name of this company. It's called Second World. This is completely a real, extraordinary world. Clark expressed the same emotion as Iron Man back then. For a superhero like him, the extraordinary world like Oasis is even more attractive than the real world. At the same time, he also discovered the special features of superpowers in the game. Obviously, this is called the Second World Game Company, and it is inextricably linked to Mutant. The boss of their company must also be a mutant. As a super ability user, Clark didn't discriminate against Mutant, and he couldn't help but think, should I go to him and ask him to help me lift this restriction? Although in this way, my identity as Clark Kent will be revealed. If you don't go, the combat experience is really not enough. After living on the Earth for so many years, Clark never thought that he would fall into an unprecedented entanglement because of a game. After thinking for a long time, he still couldn't make up his mind, then continued to choose a copy. Soon, his eyes were attracted by the names of the two copies. Saint Seiya Dragon Ball, they all seem interesting. Which one should I go to first? He took a slow breath and muttered to himself. This time, in the Oasis Pioneer Experience program, there are quite a lot of qualified super ability people. Foot Basin Country, Kyoto. Psylocke, who was dressed in a purple leather jacket and showed his bursting figure vividly, also experienced it immediately after receiving the bracelet. Like Gwen, she saw the admissions information of a new Xavier school, but she didn't go to report to Mutant. But the reason she didn't go was not because she didn't trust Xavier's school or worried about her family, but pure disdain. Since becoming a mutant, she has wandered between life and death countless times. She has long developed a withdrawn and cold personality, and the development of her own abilities has reached the extreme she believes. So she didn't think she could learn anything by going to Xavier's school. But at the moment, she suddenly felt that she was wrong. Shit! With a roar, her eyes were completely dark, and she returned to her room in the world of Oasis. Then, a settlement panel appeared in sight. Dungeon, Ninja Gaiden Progress, first level fail. With my skill and super ability, I can't pass the first level? Is the difficulty of this dungeon outrageous? Maybe it's because she has lived in the Foot Basin Country for too long. After she entered Oasis, she chose Ninja Dragon in the first instance. She thought she could pass through it easily, but she didn't expect it to be a dismal start. This made the proud and arrogant her completely unacceptable, but at the same time, she suddenly discovered. It seems that my fighting skills and experience are not as perfect as I imagined. I need more training. So, without even drinking her saliva, she re-entered the dungeon without any hesitation. I must break through this dungeon, and I must get that ninja knife. In the firm and unruly voice, the war started again. If Lynn was present, he would probably recall playing Souls games in his previous life, those unbearable days. Repeated defeats, repeated defeats, repeated defeats. That's the only way to become stronger. SHIELD, Air Base. Nick Fury has been very busy recently, and now he finally returned to the mothership, only to feel a burst of intense exhaustion. But instead of resting, he found Hill immediately. Hill, get ready. Follow me to Base 0. Nick Fury said a word, but he was taken aback when he didn't get an immediate response. When he turned his gaze, he saw Hill leaning on his chair, seemingly in a daze. With a drink in hand? Hill. Nick Fury's anger welled up all of a sudden. As the chief, he was busy every day without touching the ground. Hill, the commander of the mothership, was actually being lazy? With a low shout, the necks of the surrounding agents were startled. What? Only then did Hill react. The Hawaiian beach that only she could see quietly disappeared, asking for flowers. Only then did she see the boss with a face as heavy as water, and she got up quickly, with her right hand still tucked in the clothes on her left wrist, and covered the black bracelet inside. Boss, are you back? Hill. Nick Fury was about to get angry, but saw the dark circles under the eyes that could not be concealed on Hill's face. He was stunned for a moment, and could only slow down his tone. I know everyone has been working hard recently, but our world is facing threats. As SHILD, we must always be vigilant as a member of the understood boss. Hill didn't apologize for any hesitation. I promise it won't happen next time. Nick Fury nodded in satisfaction. Let's go. Go to Base Zero. Eric Shavik has recently accelerated his research on Tesseract, and it seems that there is some progress. Let's go and see. Yes. Hill followed suit. At the same time, he secretly vowed in his heart that he was lucky enough to get the Oasis bracelet, and he must not let Nick Fury know. Otherwise, the consequences will be disastrous. Speaking of, I filled out a registration form on a whim, and it was still the home address of the judge. How did you in the draw? How lucky have you been lately? It's a pity that in the mothership, many dungeons are inconvenient to enter, only to experience some leisure dungeon scenes. It is regarded as a vacation trip. Speaking of which, the beaches of Hawaii are no longer attractive. Go to the moon next time? Or Mars? Just as he was thinking, Nick Fury's voice came into his ears again. Go and pick up Steven on the way. Things haven't been going well recently. With him here, at least we'll be safer. By the way, what has Steven been doing lately? Hill was taken aback. After hesitation for a long time, he said cautiously, the last time he talked on the phone, he seemed to have said, want to find a game to play? Experience the experience of being frozen for 70 years. Unexperienced fun. Game. Nick Fury's footsteps suddenly stopped. His eye was as sharp as a knife, and he stared straight at Hill. Don't tell me. That game just happens to be called Oasis. Hill really doesn't know about this question, so she shook her head honestly. Maybe I can't deprive people of the right to play games in the name of SHILD? What? Nick Fury gave a strange laugh, his face full of sarcasm. You want to tell me that among the more than 8 million people in Twisted City, 100 people were randomly selected to participate in the Oasis Pioneer Experience program, and we happen to be their captain of the Avengers, Steven Rogers. The president of the Second World Company is Lynn. What does he want? Let my number 1 officer become a patient with severe internet quotient syndrome. The sound of cursing spread throughout the command room. Hill's face remained unchanged. In my heart, I sighed slightly. During this period of time, the more than 1.8 million people who participated in the Pioneer Experience program all over the world have probably become severe internet addicts. Among them may also include myself. I really don't want to play games. It's really Oasis developed by those mutants. It's really fascinating. Everyone is afraid of super ability, and everyone wants to have super ability. Who can refuse a completely real second world where they can become Superman step by step and experience all kinds of exciting life? When it is actually released, the whole world will not go crazy. Chapter 86 Infiltration Plan and the real function of Oasis. Compared to Nick Fury, Lynn has had a much more carefree time during this time. He is enjoying a romantic date. In Manhattan, in a French restaurant on Fifth Avenue. The female Judge Kate Mara, who has been in the limelight recently in the federal court, is wearing an elegant fuchsia dress, which perfectly outlines her graceful figure. She lightly cut a small piece of steak and chatted with Lynn while eating. Sir, the male lead in the Oasis is very handsome. Recently, many people in the office are discussing him. He is a new A student at Xavier's school. That's right. Lynn smiled. In fact, among the male students of Xavier's school, many of them are quite good-looking. But after the votes of all the female students, Warren Worthington, Angel, finally won the first prize and won the opportunity to appear in the photo. That video had a huge impact. The watery eyes always linger on Lynn's body, Kate Mara said with a smile. Using Hulk and Mutant to shoot commercials is really your style, sir, and I have no intention to hide the relationship between the second world and Mutant at all. Why hide? Lynn took a sip of caviar and frowned slightly. He didn't like this kind of food at all. There are no secrets in this world. Could it be hidden? The relationship between the second world and Mutant wouldn't be if he'd been found. He never underestimated the 737 power of official intelligence. What's more, he has already made public appearances in front of S.H.I.E.L.D. Hiding it again is pure self-deception. Kate Mara obviously understands this truth, But in this way, the authorities will definitely not sit idly by. They dare not deal with Mutant blatantly now, and they can't find the location of Xavier's school. But they will definitely not let the second world go on smoothly. So what? Lynn didn't care, and her expression was even a little surprised. Even if the government wants to deal with Mutant, what does it have to do with me as a game company? We are a conscientious enterprise that operates legally and pays taxes according to regulations. Kate Mara covered her mouth and chuckled. The officials want to make trouble, but they still care about whether you operate legally and pay taxes according to the regulations? This is half true. FBI, CIA, Taxation Bureau, Department of Homeland Security, just find a reason for any department. Obviously, it can affect the normal operation of a second world company. These are even obvious means. The Stark Group is a shareholder of Second World. Lynn's expression didn't change a bit, but I heard that the Stark Group seems to be preparing for a transformation, gradually reducing arms sales and turning to clean energy business. Recently, the relationship with the military has been very tense, and it has offended many people. Kate Mara still smiled. In this case, will the officials still be afraid of Stark Group's connections and influence? This matter is definitely not as simple as the Stark Group wanting to transform. Tony became the honorary principal of the new Xavier School. It is also a key factor. Are you trying to say that the Stark Group will go downhill soon without its arms business? Lynn wiped her mouth, still calm. There was a doubt in Kate's eyes. Isn't it? Definitely not. Lynn curled her lips. In a society of capital, profit is everything. Even if the Stark Group does not have the arms business, how many technology patents do they have ahead of the times? How much market potential does the clean energy created by Tony have? Can it be applied? In how many fields? And most importantly, Tony Stark is Iron Man. Kate, this man is the core value of the Stark Group. He looked at Kate's face and said word by word, as long as Tony is here, the contacts and influence of the Stark Group will never be weakened, but will be constantly strengthened because he can bring benefits to too many people. Kate realized something. Sir, you mean? On the delicate and fair face, there was a look of thought. After the Stark Group gives up the arms business, it will gain more contacts and influence in other fields and the military. Doesn't even dare to offend him? That's right. Lynn nodded. Tony is a man with a mortal body comparable to a god, although managing contacts has never been his strong point. But he has small chili peppers. It can not only develop the group business, but also maintain personal connections. With the perfect combination of the two, the future of Stark Group is limitless. But even so, Kate still has some doubts. I'm afraid the official will not give up targeting the second world because of Stark Group's holding. Right? After all, if Mutant is allowed to earn a huge amount of wealth through Oasis, it will be even more difficult to deal with in the future. You still don't understand. Lynn sighed softly. This is a country where capital is paramount. As long as you are willing to spend money, let alone break a contract, the top law firms in the entire Eagle Sauce country will work around the clock to help us find countless legal provisions and sue us. Officials maliciously suppress private companies. This is a typical Eagle Sauce feature. As long as the money is enough, there are countless lawyers in this country who dare to fight against the authorities, forming an impenetrable legal firewall around the second world. And Lynn has never been stingy with money for this kind of thing. Kate's complexion suddenly became weird. Use the rule to defeat the rule? This is what Lynn once said to her. She didn't really understand the meaning until now. Sir, I heard that the salary of employees in the second world is much higher than that of similar positions, which has resulted in countless top talents wanting to join. Kate hesitated for a while and said, if your funds are not sufficient, I can find a way. Thank you for your kindness, Kate. Lynn picked up the red wine glass, touched this full woman lightly, and then sighed softly. But now, I really don't need money. In fact, he has been spending a lot of money recently. Most of the $2 billion funds raised in the stock market were invested in the operation of the Second World Company. With Stark Group's factories all over the world, game equipment is produced day and night. It is conservatively estimated that at least $5 billion has been spent on this aspect. Then there is Zhao Hailuan's Cradle of Life project. The investment in the first phase is as high as 500 million. Mr. Land's laboratory has an initial investment of 100 million. Dr. Banner's laboratory purchased various equipment, and it also cost 3 or 4 billion. Although Lynn went to Wakanda and made a business that did not lose money, but made a lot of money, but the profit was not too much. A transaction once every 3 months can only bring tens of millions of profits. All these things add up to make ends meet. But Lynn isn't worried at all, because not long ago, he accepted the capital injection from the third shareholder, White Queen. These girls are really rich. After in-depth communication, Lynn found out that the background of White Queen Emma Frost is not worse than that of Professor X. Originally, she had a huge family property. Later, she co-founded Hellfire Club with Black King Sebastian Shaw. It's an astonishing amount of money. You know, the core group of Hellfire Club is mutant, but the peripheral members are all rich and powerful plutocrats or elites. Tony's father, Howard Stark, is a typical example. Such a group of people gather together and exchange what they need, and originally can create countless opportunities to make money. The White Queen participated in it, and the wealth skyrocketed. Although after being arrested, all her assets on the surface were dealt with by the authorities, but how could it be possible for a person like her to only have that little wealth on the surface? After knowing Lynn's plan, perhaps because of her support for Guan Baoji, or because she is optimistic about the future of the Second World, she spent $3 billion without any hesitation. Like Professor X and Stark Group, each holds 10% of the shares. So today, Lynn no longer needs to worry about money. As the time for Oasis to be officially launched is getting closer, he will even soon become a person who has no concept of money. 2. Kate Mara was a little disappointed when she heard the words, but she immediately laughed and said, "For sir, how can there be any problems with a mere amount of money?" When she said this, there was obvious reverence and admiration in her eyes, intense and almost indestructible. At the moment, if Professor X is present, you will definitely notice that her gaze is almost exactly the same as that of Mora Mactag. Apparently, she's also one of Lynn's magic apprentices. Kate, don't talk about these annoying things. For this magic apprentice, Lynn valued it far more than Mora, not only because she was younger, but also because her magic talent was quite good. Therefore, Lynn intends to focus on training. He put away his joking look and said seriously, "The protagonist today is you. Since what happened last time, your life in the federal court has been difficult, right? This is a very normal thing, although the current wind direction is not so malicious to Mutant. But Kate is in the official system, and it can be said that she is on the side of Mutant openly, so she will naturally be excluded, and there will definitely be people who want to expel her. There are definitely troubles, but I'm not a small character who could be manipulated by others." Kate heard Lynn's concern. Her face flushed, and she smiled slyly. "Since what happened last time, my current reputation is getting better every day." Lynn nodded. For a judge, social fame is obviously a very useful 0.6 weapon. "Don't worry, the days of fighting alone are over." He shook his head, and his eyes flashed brightly. "During this period of time, you should know all the potential stocks in the political circle that need help, right? Oasis will be released soon, and by then, Lynn will gain unimaginable wealth. The infiltration plan is on the agenda too." "Yes, sir." Kate smiled sweetly, flicked her slender fingers on her forehead, and her thoughts immediately connected with Lynn. Mr. James, whose son was rescued by Wolverine at the Hammer Fair, has had a change in attitude towards mutants since then. Reed Strack, the district attorney, is in charge of mutant cases and is quite repulsive to Mutant, but he doesn't know that his son and daughter are mutant. One name after another appeared in Lynn's mind, accompanied by detailed information. Lynn nodded in satisfaction. It had to be said that the performance of the two magic apprentices, Mora and Kate, made him quite satisfied. Therefore, he was looking forward to the official release of Oasis. Yes, his research and development of Oasis has never been just to make money, nor is it to collect and train the mutants of Quan Shirtzone. More importantly, find more people with magical abilities. Chapter 87: Jean Bin's Invitation. Needless to say, It was a pretty enjoyable date. Lynn had a rare relaxation, put everything aside temporarily, and concentrated on tasting the wine and food. If he wanted, after the date, he could even have an intimate mentor-apprentice session with Kate Mara, the famous beauty of the federal court. But unfortunately, this atmosphere did not last until the end. The sudden appearance of the restaurant manager interrupted their dinner. "Mr. Lynn, if you excuse me," the polite elderly gentleman, with an impeccable smile on his face, put an invitation on the table of the two Lynns and said, "The owner of our restaurant would like to invite you to participate in the entrepreneurship conference held tonight. Please enjoy the exchange meeting." After finishing speaking, he glanced at Kate and added, "If Ms. Mara needs anything else, I'll ask the kitchen to make it right away." "Definitely. Our boss will pay for this dinner." Kate was taken aback for a moment, then shook her head. "No, thank you. Then I wish you two a pleasant meal, and I won't bother you." The manager stepped back politely. "Gentlemen," Kate looked at Lynn and asked doubtfully, "I haven't heard of any large-scale entrepreneur exchange meeting recently. Could it be a small scale? But why are you detailing the invitation letter here? Most importantly, why did you give it to Lynn? 24 Oasis has not been officially launched, and the Second World Company has not yet started to make a profit. The reputation of Lynn as the president has spread. This is obviously not a formal exchange meeting." Lynn picked up the invitation and opened it. A strange smile emerged from the corner of his mouth. Contract-twisting entrepreneur exchange meeting. He really didn't expect that he would get in touch with a famous villain just by going out for a casual meal. That's right. The signature on this invitation letter is Wilson Faith. Gold, the famous overlord of the underworld. It is said that 40% of the criminal activities in Twisted City come from Gene Bing, and almost all underground businesses, such as drugs and smuggling, have to obtain his consent if they want to enter Singwest City. Such a supervillain actually calls himself a family? Also, on behalf of the Association of Entrepreneurs Who Twist the Contract, send an invitation letter to yourself? Well, he seems to be an entrepreneur. Lynn is going to start a company after the contract, and he definitely knows Gene Bing, so he knows that Gene Bing seems to have been washed very white in recent years. Wilson Faith seems to be a successful businessman in the eyes of the public. This restaurant, apparently, is one of his tiny businesses, and from Kate's mouth, Lynn even knew an amazing news. Wilson Faith is secretly planning recently and wants to participate in the mayor's campaign. And this thing, Lynn's interest was immediately raised. This is undeniable talent. In the world's gangsters, how many gangsters can be selected from black to white? And according to the memory of his previous life, he seems to have succeeded in the end. It's just that this famous mayoral candidate doesn't seem to respect the guests he invites very much. It's already 7 o'clock in the evening. The so-called exchange meeting was obviously held temporarily, and Lynn was not even given any time to prepare. The visitor is not kind. Lynn wiped her mouth, stood up slowly, and glanced at the purple dress on Kate Mara. "I hope the specifications of this exchange meeting will not insult this expensive dress. My clothes, this is not for this inexplicable exchange meeting." Kate's eyes were like silk. She got up naturally and reached out to take Lynn's arm. The venue of the exchange meeting is not far away. It is nearby, obviously chosen for Lynn's sake. The two of them were not in a hurry and walked towards their destination while strolling. By the time they arrived at their destination, it was already 10 o'clock. So, when Lynn and Kate walked into this high-end social place called Terrace Club under the guidance of the waiter, they saw unfriendly faces 3 hours. Gene Bin, who is extremely strong and looks like a huge piece of meat, leans on a luxurious sofa and locks Lynn's eyes like a wolf. "Mr. Lynn, you have spent 3 hours for a 10-minute journey. Any questions?" Lynn was slightly puzzled. Gene Bing obviously knows that he is the president of the Second World, so he can naturally guess that he has something to do with Mutant. In this case, his attitude. Does he not take Mutants seriously at all? Who gave him confidence? Or is it that he, as the overlord of the underworld with a twisted contract, has long been accustomed to this aggressive posture? When Mr. Faith sent me the invitation letter, he never asked me if I was free tonight. Lynn didn't even look at Gene and took Kate to the opposite sofa to sit down. Then he looked at the other people in the room. Yes, There are only a few people in this so-called contract-breaking entrepreneur exchange meeting. Norman Osborn, chairman of the Osborn Group. Compared to Gene Bin, the middle-aged man sitting on the sofa on the left was obviously more polite. I never thought Mr. Lynn would be so young. On the other side of the sofa is a slightly younger man, Victor Von Doom, the president of the Doom Group. On the right side of Lynn, on the wide sofa, was only a skinny old woman, holding a cane, as if she would run out of fuel at any moment. You can call me Mrs. Gao. Lynn was a little surprised, but also a little speechless. What kind of entrepreneurial exchange meeting is this? A twisted contract? In the small room, Gene Bin, Green Goblin, Dr. Doom, hand and one of the 5 fingers gathered. 4 heavyweight villain bosses. Other than them, there is no music, no dance floor, no hot and beautiful women. Not even a FG buffet. Ugh. Lynn let out a long sigh, glanced at Kate apologetically, then glanced at the 4 people present and said, Changyi man, don't waste each other's time. If you have something to do, directly Gene Bing, and the 4 of them looked at each other indiscriminately. We know that Mr. Lin is the president of Second World Technology Corporation. Gene Bing spoke slowly, not talking nonsense. Recently, the Oasis game has launched a pioneer experience plan, and the response around the world has exceeded expectations. If there are no accidents after the official launch, there will definitely be hot all over the world. So, as well-known entrepreneurs who have broken the contract, we want to cooperate with the second world. At the moment, if another person hears this, there's a high probability that they will laugh out loud. How can there be such cooperation in this world? How can there be such a business? But Lynn didn't smile. For this, he had already guessed. He leaned on the sofa and said with a half-smile, What is the cooperation? The second world is a game company. Among the group businesses, is there any game-related one? Not before, doesn't mean there won't be in the future. Gene Bing at the moment was not angry anymore and looked full of sincerity, as long as Mr. Lin is willing to share the agency rights of Oasis with us. As soon as the words came out, Kate couldn't help but glanced at Lynn's side face. Sure enough, in a society where capital is paramount, interests are everything. This is the wolf smelling meat. Hurry up. Chapter 88, You Don't Really Think. I dare not kill people, do you? Lynn smiled. There is no shortage of smart people in this world. The world of Oasis has only just released the demo version, and its immeasurable market potential has already been seen by countless interested people. The 4 people in front of them obviously want to step in. They are very clear that this kind of product beyond the times means countless banknotes. What's more, this pioneering experience plan has clearly revealed the ambition of the second world. This newly established company is not satisfied with opening up the market step by step and ready to be released worldwide simultaneously. This kind of behavior, placed on any company, is undoubtedly an extremely stupid strategy. However, Oasis has unparalleled quality and potential, and among the shareholders of Second World, there are the world's top consortiums like Stark, and under the combination of powerful forces, they have the ability and confidence to swallow the global market. But even so, things in the business field have never been so simple. So many countries around the world. There are so many consortiums, forces, gangsters, and criminal organizations in every country. Which one will not be jealous? Therefore, for second world companies, the best strategy is to let go of agency rights and choose some powerful partners with great energy in various countries and regions. In other words, everyone earns money together. And Gene Bing's reason is also very sincere. The technological content of Oasis is far ahead of the times. Looking at the world, except for the Stark Group, there are probably few who can provide technical assistance, but can give Oasis. The release of Oasis has caused trouble, but there are not a few. We also know that Mutant is behind Second World Corporation, but now, although Mutant's situation has improved, there is only one new Xavier school after all. Mutants are also a minority group after all. How much can we do about this problem? It's impossible to have a team of X-Men stationed in every city, right? And we can all help out. It has to be said that he deserves to be the overlord of the underworld who can control the underground world. his way of doing business. Though simple, is not brutal. Benefits and threats are on the table respectively. As long as Lynn is willing to make concessions and let them obtain agency rights in certain countries and regions, the second world can get a lot of money, and at the same time, it can save a lot of trouble. Definitely, how much of this so-called trouble comes from themselves? I don't know. Lynn thought about it and found it made sense. After all, Second World is just a newly established company. Although it is developing regardless of cost, it lacks foundation after all. If it encounters problems in the sale in certain countries, it really lacks the ability to deal with it. The simplest thing is that Oasis is selling well in a certain city, but the sales point is harassed and destroyed by gangsters all day long. The disease of scabies can also make people feel anxious. Understood. Lynn nodded, looked at the eyes of Jean Bing and the others, but did not hide her sarcasm. You guys are worthy of doing big business, and they're clearly seeking cooperation from the second world. How can we? It seems that there is no room for rejection at all. Kim remained silent. Norman Osborn said with a smile. Mr. Lin was joking. We definitely came here with a certain amount of sincerity. Mrs. Gao said directly in Chinese. For business, Mr. Lin must be able to understand the principle that cooperation will benefit both and division will harm both. Victor Doom held a glass of red wine and looked at Lin with a half smile. Divide two evils. Lin's smile grew brighter. The implication is that if he refuses to agree, he may have to face some bad consequences. He sighed softly. I'm really curious. Since you guys know about the relationship between the second world and mutant, and you dare to talk about cooperation in this way, aren't you afraid that I'll gather a group of mutants and kill you all? He didn't just talk casually, but really didn't understand. It seems that in this world, there are always many people, not just the four in front of me, have an inexplicable self-confidence, thinking that they can compete with super ability people. One is not too many, and a group is not afraid. Where did he get the confidence to feel that those with super abilities are weak and deceitful? Let's just talk about the four in front of me. Madame Gao was born in Kunlun and has the energy of Qi. Lin didn't sense any power fluctuations either. In other words, he has not yet become heroine of destruction. These four people, at best, control a huge wealth empire. Facing ordinary people, they definitely don't have to be scruples about tricks. But facing the second world, who obviously has a mutant background, how dare they be so intimidating? What do you think? The atmosphere in the room suddenly froze. The four of Jean Bing exchanged glances silently, and a look of fear flashed in their eyes. But to Lin's surprise, they didn't have the slightest fear. Not so, not so. Norman Osborn coughed lightly and said with a polite smile, we are all businessmen, and for businessmen, making money is the first priority. Even if the business cannot be negotiated, there is no grudge between us and Mutant. How can it be impossible to make trouble to that extent? He paused and then added, besides, the Mutant Affairs Bureau has been established, and any crime committed by Mutant will be wanted by the X-Men. He didn't finish his sentence, but Lin had already figured it out and was involuntarily stunned for a moment. After a long time of trouble, is this different from the past? Since Mutant chose to integrate into the rules, he must be bound by the rules in his actions, so he can't be as unscrupulous as before. You are already a good man, so you can't use the knife at will. For a moment, Lin felt a sense of irony. Kate beside her also looked weird. In the spiritual link between the two, she heard her teasing laughter. Sir, is this another way to use rules to defeat rules? Lin was speechless. It's not that I feel like I'm in a cocoon. These four people in front of them are indeed smart people. From the recent chaotic series of events, they can see that Mutant is actively integrating into human society, so they believe that Mutant will not use super abilities to kill people unscrupulously. B. You're not good people. Do you have a misconception about who you are? Mutant really wants to deal with you. Is it crime? Do not. Just fight crime. Understood. Lin suddenly found it quite interesting. He leaned on the sofa, folded his arms, and looked at Jean Bin. Mr. Faithku is indeed right. Mutants are a minority group after all, and it is indeed difficult to deal with the endless small troubles around the world, but You guys, is it possible? If I remember correctly, Mr. Faithku is known as the overlord of the underworld, but he is only limited to Twist City, right? There are a few others. He glanced at Osborne and others. Your group business is already opened up to various countries in the world? Negotiations have reached this level, and these words obviously mean that they are loose. Jean Bing and the others immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Although my sites are all contracted, the smuggling channels are all over the world. Jean Bin was the first to speak. If Mr. Lynn is willing to open up the agency, then I think the entire American state should have no problems. Madame Gao is also full of confidence. I can handle everything in Asia. I have some business in Australia, Victor Doom said with a smile. As long as I sign, the business focus of the Doom Group will be transferred there. Osborne's expression was extremely humble. The Osborne family actually has the blood of the British nobles. Good guy. This is even the land is divided. Poor Africa, where Wakanda is located, there is no candidate. Do you think that people in that place can't afford the game equipment of Oasis? Okay. Under Kate's surprised gaze, Lynn didn't even agree with the slightest hesitation. The next moment, under the eyes of Jean Bing and the other for who couldn't restrain their excitement, he slowly raised a hand, of what kind, and pointed, agency fee. As soon as these words came out, the youngest Victor Dumb immediately couldn't hold his breath and said, 100 million? Lynn shook her head slowly. 1 billion. Jean Bing spoke in a deep voice, and the expressions of the other three also sank slightly. But what they didn't expect was that. Lynn is still shaking her head. 10 billion per year. Saying these words word by word, Lynn smiled slightly, took Kate's hand, and stood up slowly. There is no room for negotiation on this price. You can discuss it with me. If you're still interested, please feel free to contact me. He just walked away without the slightest hesitation. With a click, the door closed. The faces of the four people in the room became extremely gloomy in an instant, and the eyes of mafia heroes like Jean Bing and Mrs. Gao even showed a cold chill in their eyes. However, what they didn't know was that the same light appeared in the eyes of Lynn, who opened the door to leave. Even after the plan started, there hasn't been any bloodshed, which has given some people the illusion. What cats and dogs dare to bully you? They don't really think my methods are less aggressive than Magneto's. Don't you dare to kill people. Chapter 89. Sweeping darkness and evil in the American comics world. I don't know how long it has been. He's playing us. In the suffocating silence, a roar suddenly sounded. Jean Bing slapped the coffee table with both palms, stood up abruptly, and the heavy coffee table shattered with a bang. This matter will definitely not be left alone. Mrs. Gao returned to her ancient and calm posture. Her withered face showed no expression. But under her crutches, the marble floor cracked at some point. It seems that we underestimated Mutants' ambition. A look of thought appeared on Norman Osborn's face. Perhaps they established Second World Company not just to make money. Anyway, the business is a failure. Victor Dumb's eyes were a little strange, but he didn't look angry at all. In that case, I'll take my leave first. Seeing him leaving as soon as he said it, Osborn had a trace of dissatisfaction in his eyes. It's not over yet. Come on, Mr. Hansberg. Victor Doom shrugged. The business of our Doom Group is not as deeply involved with the military as your Osborn Group. Since the business of Oasis is not involved, we can concentrate on operating the original business of the group. That's it. Why continue to offend those mutants? Listening to what he said, it seems that this exchange meeting is not that simple. Osborn's face darkened again. He was about to speak again when Victor Dumb turned and left. He didn't even say hello to Jean Bing and Mrs. Gao. It's late 360. Osborn's eyes flickered, and he didn't know what to think of. So he got up and said, Faith Koo. Mrs. Gao, I'm going back first. What happened tonight? Let's just pretend it didn't happen. Wait for him to open the door and leave. Jean Bing and Mrs. Gao looked at each other. The latter suddenly sneered. They won't really spend $10 billion to buy a one-year agency, right? $10 billion a year. Even if they can afford the money, how much can a continent's agency make in a year? Is it enough? Jean said with a blank face. Madame Gao fell silent. The Osborn Group's research and development of human body-strengthening drugs is not going well. The military is very dissatisfied with this. If this continues, they will even lose other contracts with the military. However, this time, they did not succeed. Gene is indeed a gangster who is keen on politics, and he seems to know a lot of secret things. It seems that the Osborn Group will be excluded from the military's recently increased investment list. What? Mrs. Gao snorted coldly. Super Soldier Project. Born in Kunlun, she seems to disdain things like becoming stronger through potions. Victor Doom wasn't as relaxed as he made it out to be. Jean didn't care about her attitude, and said to himself, the dumb group can develop to the scale it is today. I don't know how many political officials have been involved. He messed up the matter. Don't you need to go back and explain? A look of surprise appeared in Mrs. Gao's eyes. So, for what happened tonight, the two businessmen had another purpose. Instead, it was us two gangsters who really wanted to make money. I'm a businessman too. Jean Bin glanced at her coldly. I might as well tell you, if tonight's matter is decided to draw an appointment for the mayor's seat, it will be one of my things. So you also have another purpose. Madame Gao looked at him without showing any sign of weakness. Unfortunately, that Lynn has no intention of cooperating at all. Your mayor dream shattered. Being ridiculed like this, Jean Bin was not even angry. Everyone is the same, isn't it? He said indifferently. Hand and the association have been operating in the Foot Basin country for so many years, and they have long been indistinguishable from the officials, right? Didn't you get involved in this matter after receiving orders from headquarters? Mrs. Gao raised her eyebrows, and a cold breath came out from her body, but soon dispersed. It's meaningless to say this now. She laughed again abruptly, like a poisonous snake that has been dormant for hundreds of years. The next thing needs our sincere cooperation. If we don't cause trouble for the second world, that Lynn may really think we were just scaring him. Definitely. Jean Bing also smiled. Many times, some small tricks that are not on the table can often achieve unexpected results. Madame Gao nodded, stood up, and prepared to leave the pile. She looked like she was dying, but her actions were not affected in the slightest. The moment he opened the door, Jean Bin's reminder came from his ear. If Mutant takes revenge, remember to leave evidence. Mrs. Gao responded without stopping. But unfortunately, she didn't take this step. So, there's someone behind you, on the sofa where Lynn sat just now. A familiar figure seemed to appear out of thin air, and he applauded softly. That is to say, cooperation is only one of them. If you can't do it, then stimulate Mutant to take revenge, and then leave evidence to destroy Mutant's image. Bang! The door opened by Mrs. Gao is closed again. A strong wind hit her, causing her wrinkled face to tremble violently. At the same time, Jean Bing's pupils shrank suddenly. His body turned around suddenly, and he assumed a guard kfi posture. Unexpectedly, Madame Gao immediately turned her head, looked at Lynn on the sofa. Her face was gloomy. When did you sneak in? Lynn's spiritual power enveloped the audience, seeing all the changes in her expression, and said with a smile, I have never left, so I heard all of your conversation just now. Seeing the change in Jean Bing's expression, he couldn't help sighing softly. You guys clearly know that you're facing a mutant, but why do you think it's better to ambush the gunman in the dark, install infrared equipment in the room, and add some traps? Can you guarantee your own safety? He made no secret of his banter, but Jean Bing and Mrs. Gao were speechless. Jean Bing clenched his fists tightly, making the sound of joints rubbing against each other. Obviously knowing that it is useless to talk too much, we are ready to fight. On the other side, Mrs. Gao's eyes flashed, and she was also about to activate her own ability. Lynn has no desire to fight them at all. To be honest, Kate told me during the meal before that under the current situation, human officials dare not blatantly attack Mutant, but they will definitely not let the second world develop unscrupulously. He acted as if no one was there, and said with a trace of surprise in his eyes, I am very aware of this, but I didn't expect that their method would be through you. The people behind you really want to make money? If the cooperation fails, the group wants to turn against each other? This question was naturally asked of Jean Bing. When Jean Bing heard the words, he seemed to feel that his attitude was a bit strange. After thinking about it, he replied, "Definitely for making money, Mr. Lynn. With your wisdom, it should be easy to understand. Not monolithic." Understood. Lynn understood and continued to ask, "Then, can you please, Mr. Faith, to tell me the names of those who want to cooperate with the second world to make money? Since you want money, why do you have to be so sneaky? You can come to me directly." Kim does definitely not utter a single name. He wants to run for mayor, and he can't do without the help of any one of them. For those people participating in the Oasis project to make money through a white glove and accepting bribes from Mutant above board are two completely different things. Therefore, as long as one of these names is leaked from Jean Bing's mouth, his end will be miserable. Jean Bing is a person who is extremely passionate about money and power and has great enthusiasm for politics. So until the last moment, he will never give up his political dreams, and naturally, he will not give up the background contact that have been in business for many years. Lynn saw it. I couldn't help but pouted. Profit touches people's hearts. Power charms their eyes. It seems that those super abilities you met before were so gentle that they gave you the illusion of you're good at it. He sighed with emotion, and the pupils in his eyes suddenly turned blood red. Boom! Jean Bin only heard a loud roar, and the ground under his feet collapsed instantly, and the marble, masonry, and soil all disappeared without a trace in an instant, leaving only a dark abyss. The unsupported body fell on the spot. The same goes for Mrs. Gao on the other side. Whether it is the original super ability or the key learned from Kunlun, there is no room for development at all. The abyss seems endless, and it will never fall to the bottom. Time seemed to lose its meaning at this moment, and an unprecedented panic surged in my heart. At this moment, Jean Bing and Mrs. Gao finally realized that Lynn was different from all other mutants. At the end, they're not qualified to fight back at all. You guys, have you ever heard of sweeping black and evil? A voice like a devil's crooning sounded directly from the depths of the soul. To eradicate evil and evil, it is natural to cut grass and roots. Six-ring magic's soul domination. Chapter 90 Destruction. The true power of mutant. The night is getting darker, and the moon is in the sky. Most of the people in Twisting City have fallen asleep. However, for those gangsters, now is obviously a lively time. Smuggling, drug trafficking, robbery, murder. Countless lively things are happening in every corner. As the overlord of the underground world, Lao Dan is different from all gang leaders. This is a 30-story high-end office building. Obviously, Jean Bin, who is passionate about politics, hopes to separate himself from the evils of the underground world. He is still the underworld overlord who does all kinds of evil, but in the daytime, he is a successful businessman. Under the cover of the night, a figure swayed between the buildings and successfully landed on the top floor of the building. Tonight is the time to put the experience accumulated in dealing with criminal forces in the world of Oasis into action. A slightly excited voice came from under Gwen Spider's hood. As a newly promoted superhero, she has quite strong strength, but she is only a college student after all, and her experience in dealing with criminals is seriously lacking, so that for a long time before, she always stopped some criminal acts belatedly. I even suffered a lot of losses in the middle. But it's different now. Through brushing copies of Oasis again and again, she gradually realized 10 truths in the process of dealing with gangsters countless times. It is meaningless to always entangle with some small people. To fight crime, take the initiative. Only by solving the leader of the criminal group and obtaining decisive evidence can the entire group be dismantled in one fell swoop. So she is here today. In the building under your feet is the headquarters of Jean Bing Group. It seems that they are all legitimate businesses on the surface, but in fact, there must be hidden secrets that no one knows. Call. Gwen took a breath slowly and cheered herself softly. Be careful. Don't disturb anyone. I can. As she spoke, she was about to take action when she suddenly had a shock. In danger, reminded by spider telepathy, she quickly looked in the direction of the source of the crisis and saw not far from the front right, a ray of light suddenly appeared, walking out of it like a door. Gwen and the other party were stunned at the same time, Obviously, they didn't expect to meet other people here. Looking at each other, two exclamations sounded at the same time. Phoenix, Spider-Man. For the recently famous X-Men, Gwen naturally knew it, so she recognized it immediately, and it was Phoenix Jean Grey who made the voice. And Spider-Man has also been on TV, so Phoenix also recognized it. There was a strange look in his eyes. You are also here to deal with Jean Bing? And also, when keenly caught the point, Phoenix pondered for a while, exchanged eyes with several other people, then looked at Gwen again and said tentatively, "How about together?" "What?" Gwen looked bewildered and nodded subconsciously. Phoenix didn't talk nonsense. First raised his hand and threw out 4 metal discs emitting a faint light. Adsorbent was at the 4 corners of the building, and then his left hand protruded. The locked door on the roof opened with a bang. Gwen was taken aback. "We want to collect evidence of Jean Bin's crime, so don't make too much noise. Don't worry, from now on, nothing that happened in this building will be spread." A strange look appeared on Phoenix's face. He shook his head and laughed. "Besides, we are not here to collect evidence as X-Men. We are definitely here to arrest people." After the voice fell, she had already passed through the door first. Several others followed. Arrests. Under the spider hood, Gwen's expression was full of shock and astonishment, but she still followed. Soon, she knew that she was shocked too early. These 5 people, it's really here to attack Jean and headquarters. They actually sat in the elevator in their spare time and went down day by day. First of all, the top floor. Here is Jean Bing's office, which is obviously the most likely place to hide confidential information. But Phoenix and the others didn't stop at all, because there is no one here. When they got to the next floor, they met a group of elites from Gina Group and asked, "Who?" "I come." Before Phoenix could move, an excited voice sounded behind her. Gwen felt a gust of wind blowing by her side, and the burly men who appeared in sight all lay on the ground and moaned. Then, doors opened one after another, and exclamations sounded from inside. Cursing Yuan Hao. These sounds were like war horns, and soon rang through the entire building. "Call." Another gust of wind blew by. Gwen narrowed his eyes slightly and saw the figure that disappeared just now reappeared behind Phoenix. The other party was dressed in a black leather jacket, tall and slender, with stern eyes. Seemingly aware of Gwen's gaze, the other party smiled coldly. "Callisto, you can also call me Nightmare." Moving at supersonic speed, Gwen's heart skipped a beat, and she vaguely sensed the other party's super ability. "Callisto, you're moving too fast, and you're causing me trouble." Polaris Lorna Dane with short green hair said something displeased. She took out a pair of glasses from her arms and put them on. "Alice, scan the bidders." "Clear." A female voice came out of the glasses. Gwen was amazed that Luna had already stepped out of the crowd. Her eyes flicked over the thugs lying on the ground and howling. And every time she paused for a while, the ubiquitous metal products in the room suddenly twisted and turned into handcuffs one by one, restraining the target. Then he flicked his hands at will, and dozens of locked targets were destroyed. Blinking Clarice stood up, and with a flick of her hands, small portals appeared below the target. The sound of bang and bang was endless, and dozens of targets disappeared. Gwen could see clearly that behind each of the transmissions was clearly the rooftop that everyone had just met. "These people are..." She opened her mouth involuntarily. "All the people above the middle level in the Jinha group are murderers, arsonists, drug dealers, and smugglers with bloody hands." Behind Phoenix, Shadowcat, who took pictures of this scene with his mobile phone, explained to her casually, "These scumbags can only spend the rest of their lives in prison." Gwen trembled, not shocked by the means of these female mutants. But looking at this posture, they seem to know Jean Jing's criminal group very well, and they seem to have countless evidences, and they seem to want to wipe out Jean Jing group. This guess was soon confirmed. Next level, the next level. Phoenix sits in the center, Polaris and Nightmare take action. Blink is responsible for sending the arrested people to the rooftop, and Shadowcat is responsible for filming the material of the arrest operation. As for Flowers, in just half an hour, they actually killed the entire building from top to bottom. During this process, none of the thugs could stand still, Either their legs were broken by the quick impact kick of the Night Walker, or the bullets controlled by Polaris shot through their knees. As if they were in their own home, they easily found the hidden elevator on the next floor and came to the hidden underground base. Obviously, this is Gene Bin's real lair, and that's their real goal. Da-da-da-da-da. As soon as the elevator door opened, countless bullets poured in. With Gwen's perception, he heard strange, tearing air sounds amidst the whistling bullets. Finally, it's not just some miscellaneous fish. The night girl rushed out happily. At the same time, Phoenix's gaze had already passed over a kind of thug who was shooting and locked onto the figures behind them. Bullseye, Prowler, Cyborg, Mutant. Lynn is really right. Kim hired a lot of mutants to work for him. Who is Lynn? This idea just popped up in Gwen's mind. Phoenix and Polaris have been shot at the same time. On the other side, Hand and New York base outside. The night wind was blowing, and it was full of chills. Daredevil Matt Murdock held his guide stick and said with a confused look, "You really don't want to help? Let me be a blind man and go to Longtan Tigerwood alone? Madame Gao isn't here. It's just a bunch of scumbags inside." Wolverine held a cigar in her mouth and lit the fire by herself. "You have been fighting with them for so long, and you know each other so well, and it's a surprise attack again. Can't you handle it?" Daredevil was speechless. "I don't have the self-healing ability like you, and you haven't dealt with those ninjas from the Hand and meeting." He talked for a long time, but didn't get any response from Wolverine, so he couldn't help but sigh deeply. "I don't have any preparations. Actually, I'm not ready either." Wolverine puffed out the smoke ring, stopped joking, and said seriously, "Matt, you're just an adjunct professor at the new Xavier School. This action has nothing to do with you. Lynn is just out of respect. Let me tell you. Actually, you don't have to participate at all." Daredevil fell silent. He definitely can't wait outside. After so many years in Hell's Kitchen, he was determined to fight crime. His biggest opponents were hands and clubs, and the hatred between them had already penetrated deep into his bones. The matter of destroying hands and meetings. How could he not participate? During the recent period, he has a very clear understanding of the strength of Xavier's school. So he is very clear that if he does not come tonight, he will have no chance to deal with opponents and meetings in the future. So what I just said was just a joke, to ease my nervousness. The sworn enemy who has fought for many years will disappear forever after today. He was inevitably in a trance and thought he was dreaming. Give me half an hour. Matt Murdock took a deep breath, and although his eyes were dull, a blazing radiance burst out. "We will never delay your hand in meeting headquarters." "Okay." Wolverine patted him on the shoulder, nodding solemnly. Behind him, Poppy Iceman, Colossus, and Sunspot stood solemnly. In the eyes, the color of excitement flickers wildly. "I have been dormant for many days, but I never thought that the first battle would kill Shangsho and the headquarters in the Foot Basin country. They can't wait to be with. Chapter 91, if I give it, you can take it, but if I don't give it to you, you can't grab it. It's still the same room and the same 3 people." Lynn leans back on the sofa. Jean Bing and Mrs. Gao seem to have just been fished out of the water, lying on the ground, sweating profusely, and the look of horror on their faces has not faded until now. "You devil." Jean Bing's eyes were filled with unprecedented fear. He can become the overlord of the underworld with a twisted contract. He has experienced many dangers and killings, but there has never been a moment when he was more terrified like just now. In fact, his body was not harmed in any way, but his soul, dominated, like a person locked in a small dark room, looking at an identical self outside, standing in front of Lynn like a puppet. No matter what the other party asks, he will always ask who are the people under his command, how many dens are there in total, what sites and channels are in his hands, who is responsible for drug trafficking, and who is responsible for killing. Where is the wealth accumulated over the years hidden? How is it dispersed? And how is it laundered? This time, coercion and temptation to get involved in the business of Oasis, who is behind the 887 intention. Everything, all his secrets were spoken out by himself. That feeling was 100 times, 1,000 times more uncomfortable than stripping him naked and putting him on the street, being pointed at by everyone. At that moment, He even felt that as long as Lynn said something, he would raise his hands and slap his head to pieces. Gene Bing finally understands. The superheroes you met in the past are all too gentle. What does it mean? The man in front of me? Worse than the demons in hell. Because he didn't take his own life, but waved his hand, and several light curtains appeared on the wall, replaying the process of the phoenix and the others sweeping his lair. He actually let himself watch his underworld empire collapse overnight. Speaking of which, I still have to thank you for giving Mutant a chance to gain reputation. Lynn looked calm and didn't care about Gene Bing's cursing. The biggest gang in the contract. Have you tortured many people these years? When they see the news, will they worship Jean? Teams of X-Men appeared in the light curtains on the wall. The team headed by Storm is composed of 6 students who are about to graduate, including Pyroman John and Bishop. The members of the Cyclops team are Nightcrawler and 5 adult freshmen. One is Thunderbird, which has super strength, speed and defense, and strong perception, which is equivalent to the collection of acute eyes and acute ears. One is that beautiful dreams can manipulate people's memories. In addition, there are 3 Cuckoo sisters, all of whom have rare telepathy ability, and they can be used in combination, which has great potential. With the cooperation of several people's respective abilities, Gene Bing's second largest base in New York was breached without any suspense, and soon suffered a devastating blow. On the other side, Siren also brought a team. The members were Multiple Man, Arclight, and Juggernaut. Both are powerful mutants that have appeared in the movie. Gambit also became the captain of a team of X-Men, with 6 members including Angel, Eclipse, manipulating light, Impulse, releasing pulse waves, and Riva, emitting high-frequency ultrasonic waves from the mouth. Of all the X-Men teams, Mystique's team was the easiest. Relying on her completely flawless transformation ability, she broke into the base easily by herself, and then broke out again in just 10 minutes. Teacher, we can't get exercise like you. Several of her team members looked at each other in blank dismay, helpless. Looking at these scenes, Gene didn't understand that Lynn actually regarded the underworld empire that destroyed him as the training ground for new members of the X-Men. This made him extremely desperate, but at the same time extremely angry. He didn't know where the strength came from, so he suddenly sat up straight and stared at Lynn. The X-Men's law enforcement power is only for mutant. You are so unscrupulous, and you kill people openly. You are not afraid of violence. What are you afraid of? Lynn glanced at him lightly. X-Men is law enforcement. Some criminals resisted arrest and were killed on the way. What's the problem? The expression on Gene Bing's face suddenly froze. You still don't understand. Lynn sighed softly. After the establishment of the Mutant Affairs Bureau, X-Men has the power to enforce the law for any criminal activities involving mutant. Your Bullseye and Prowlers. None of them are mutants. Gene Bin turned pale, but subconsciously shouted, "The mutants you found in the building have nothing to do with me." You said it wasn't it. There was a sneer at the corner of Lynn's mouth. Okay, even if they're not, even if your subordinates really don't have a single mutant. What about you? Gene was stunned. I have even the slightest relationship with mutant. You are a man with more than 90% of the muscles in your body. You can punch through a wall with a single punch. Lynn stood up and looked at him condescendingly. Facing the ironclad facts, you told me that you were just an ordinary person? If you tell me that, who will believe it? I was training. Gene didn't speak half, and the whole person couldn't restrain his trembling. He finally understood what Lynn meant. It is true that the Mutant Affairs Bureau only has law enforcement powers against mutants. But because of this, as long as the X-Men recognizes you as a mutant, you are a mutant. Not two. It turns out that this is the real reason why you seek to establish the Mutant Affairs Bureau. For a while, Gene Bing only felt that he had discovered a terrible truth, but when he thought about it carefully, there was nothing unusual. Politicians and conspirators among human beings have long used this method to death. Perhaps because of this, those people didn't even realize that, in theory, the Mutant Affairs Bureau can intervene in any official affairs unscrupulously through this method. Wrong. Jean Bing said tremblingly. Is it a mutant? It depends on whether there is an X gene in the body. So, you people have never really understood mutant. Lynn looked at him with pity. 90% of the people in the world have the X gene in their bodies. And mutant just activates this gene. Jean Bing collapsed on the ground again, completely speechless. An extremely intense regret welled up in my heart. Why do you want to provoke this person? It was obviously just a simple temptation, but it brought disaster upon myself. The underworld empire established after decades of struggle has become a stepping stone for Mutant to improve his prestige. To tell you the truth, tomorrow morning, you will show up at the gate of the NYPD, together with your subordinates. You will spend the rest of your life in prison. Lynn has always been above board in doing things, and she actually confessed her plan frankly. At the same time, the evidence of your crimes over the years, the names of those who instructed you to get involved in Oasis, and the ulterior motives between you and the transaction, will be handed over to them together. Jean looked at him in disbelief. Those people behind me, you shouldn't. I'm supposed to find them, send them money, and make the mutants official internal allies, right? Lynn smiled and shook her head. As if talking to himself, he murmured softly, if Mutant wants to give it, they can definitely take it. But if I don't give it to them, they can't take it. This is the rule. Jean Bing looked at Lynn blankly as if struck by lightning. In a daze, 4.8, he actually felt that the young mutant in front of him was more like a gangster overlord than himself. A gangster overlord whose strength was 100 times stronger than himself, and his methods were 100 times more ruthless than himself. "Ha, you didn't kill us?" Mrs. Gao, who had been lying on the ground like a dead dog, suddenly burst into laughter at this moment. It seems that we are not wrong. If Mutant wants to integrate into the rules, he must also be bound by the rules. You actually want to hand us over to NYPD? Ha 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 ha. The way she looked at Lynn was filled with viciousness and hatred as thick as substance. Obviously already crazy. Don't worry, you're all going to die. This is a deterrent to those with ulterior motives. Lynn looked at this old woman who had lived for hundreds of years, with a look of disgust in her eyes. It's just that before you die, you need to bring out the last bit of value. In addition, he knelt down slowly and said to Mrs. Gao word by word, I am very glad that the headquarters of your hand in society are in the Foot Basin country. Because of this, I don't have any psychological burden for this meteorite storm. Chapter 92, The Strength of the Mutant Bureau. Big event. The Mutant Affairs Bureau launched a thunderous anti-crime operation, and the X-Men wiped out about 112 gang dens overnight. The underworld empire collapsed overnight. A generation of hero Jean Bin, a businessman who focuses on charity, a politician running for the mayor, or the leader of a criminal group who hides deep. Crazy. X-Men caught too many criminals. NYPD says prisons are not enough. A breath of safety. The only day since the founding of New York City without gunfire and crime. The latest report from the front, X-Men handed over all the evidence in this case to Catherine Burgett of the 17th Bureau. Before that, she became famous for cracking the assassination of the president. The reporter boldly predicted that after this case, she will become a strong contender for the director of the NYPD. The FBI commissioner rushed to the scene and reprimanded the X-Men for violating the law. Great gifts and special crabs. It wasn't just the Jinha criminal group that was destroyed last night. A drug trafficking group called Shahewi was also uprooted, and the leader was sent directly to the NYPD. It is said that this organization does not do human trafficking business. There are rumors that the place where a meteorite fell from the sky in the Foot Basin country last night and caused a large number of casualties is the headquarters of the Hand and Society. It is rumored that this is an angry mutant who took revenge on this organization, but so far, no mutant has indicated that it is related to this matter. On the contrary, there are more than one terrorist organization declaring responsibility for this. The next morning, the people in Twisted City had just woken up from their sleep when they were stunned by the ubiquitous news on the internet and on TV. What's the situation? No gunshots and crimes in the twisting party. Almost everyone's first reaction was to sneer. Living in such a city, who hasn't figured out yet how much glitz, mania, crime, and madness are hidden in the bustling surface of feasting and debauchery. Isn't this the normal state of 28 in New York City every day? Someday there is no crime news, but it will make people not get used to it. So, in just one night, the dating gang was wiped out in one go. Dreaming is not so outrageous, okay? This kind of thinking is almost a consensus among the people, but this time, after all, Mutant was involved, so most of them paid attention to it, and then came to X Daily under the guidance of a series of news. I don't know when, the Mutant channel has updated another video. It turned out to be the scene of destroying 112 dens of the Gina group. Under Alice's editing, there are no bloody scenes of murder in the video, and the audience can only see that the X-Men are divided into 6 teams, shuttling between cities and attacking criminal dens tirelessly. In almost every den, at least a dozen or as many as dozens of middle and high-level members of the gang were arrested. Then, like thousands of rivers returning to the sea, they gathered at the gate of NYPD. Great Crab Special. 6 X-Men squads destroyed 112 criminal dens in one night. On average, a team can handle 18 or 9 of them. How long is it all in one night? What kind of efficiency is this? If people from NYPD and FBI have this kind of efficiency, how can there be so many criminals doing all kinds of crimes? It's no wonder that the air around today's appointment is so sweet and sweet. The other criminals must have been shocked and didn't dare to come out at all, right? The official establishment of the Mutant Affairs Bureau is simply the wisest decision ever. X-Men, cool. A new round of internet frenzy was set off, and the citizens of the Twisted Date celebrated with each other, while people in other places expressed unparalleled envy and jealousy. Who lives in a city without gangsters and crime these days? If the city I live in can also fight against gangsters so efficiently, this thing definitely cannot disappear forever. But come to think of it, life in the future will be much safer than before. After this kind of speech appeared on the internet, it quickly won the support of countless people. As a result, more and more people collectively petitioned, hoping that the local government would cooperate with the X-Men to launch a thunderous campaign against gangsters and evil in their own city. From this moment on, the reputation of X-Men really spread throughout the entire continent, and the newly established Mutant Affairs Bureau has become known to everyone. This time, no one mentioned the mutant threat theory. The direction of the wind has completely reversed before you know it. You are exceeding your authority. In the conference room of the 17th Bureau of the NYPD, a large number of high-ranking officials gathered together, including the director of the General Bureau, the head of the FBI's contracting branch, and the commissioner of the mayor's office. Everyone's face was full of anger. Among them, even a state congressman. The authority of the Mutant Affairs Bureau is only for mutants. Ordinary people's cases are not up to you. The head of the General Administration was extremely upset. Last time, the X-Men wanted to solve the assassination case of the president, so they solemnly went to the General Administration to ask him to send a detective to assist, which was regarded as a greeting. This time, it was fine to just arrest people, but they were sent to the 17th game. Obviously, to give credit to Catherine Bergert, she's just a little superintendent. When is it her turn to call the shots at the NYPD? Thoughts flickered in his mind. The director stared at White Queen with burning eyes, knocked on the table, and said, "Ms. Frost, there are some things that everyone knows well. To put it bluntly, even if Twist City is captured by gangsters, it will not be their turn. Come to your Mutant Affairs Bureau to intervene." "What are you doing now?" The White Queen leaned back on the chair leisurely. If in the past someone dared to speak to her like this, she would have transformed into a diamond form and kicked the opponent away. But since being with Lynn, she has also learned to reason, and she discovered that the matter of being reasonable, it's kind of fun. Director Celis, you also said that we have the right to deal with all crimes related to mutant, didn't we? With a smile on her lips, she turned on the computer and projected images one by one. Aren't these people mutant? What's the problem if we take action? There are a lot of pictures, and some of them are indeed mutants. When the Phoenix team took action, they carried out a less violent resistance. In addition, there's also a bullseye training video. I saw him pick up the pens, cups, stones, and even a needle around him, throwing them out again and again, and every time he hit the target of the high-speed movement. In addition, there's a video of Gene Bin and his men punching. The terrifying tonnage and terrifying power made the ordinary people present shudder with fear. Gold is not a mutant. The special commissioner from the mayor's office was just about to speak. White Queen interrupted. Mr. Sanders knows him well, or is there anyone among the ordinary people you know who has the same power as him? Commissioner Sanders immediately shut up. Even if Gene is not a mutant, you can only target him alone. The person in charge of the FBI's contract division said coldly. If I'm not mistaken, apart from the headquarters of the Jinha Group, the other 111 criminal dens you destroyed were all ordinary thugs and gangsters. Molecular. They're all ordinary people, but you have used super abilities on them, and even killed dozens of people. Among the hundreds of people captured, all of them were seriously injured. It's a crime. Regarding his accusation, White Queen just replied lightly. Mr. Smith, do you have any misunderstanding about the power of law enforcement? There was a hint of sarcasm in her eyes. If I remember correctly, when NYPD agents are operating, if they encounter guns and resist arrest, they have the right to kill them on the spot. You can only watch if you resist arrest. Smith's face was as gloomy as water. As the person in charge of the FBI's contract twisting branch, he would definitely not be an idiot. So at this moment, like Gene Bin, he thought of the real purpose of the establishment of the Mutant Bureau. And he definitely knew that the reason why the White House agreed to establish the Mutant Affairs Bureau was just a means to ease public opinion. The purpose is to buy more time to prepare for dealing with mutant. But regardless of the truth, the Mutant Bureau has finally been established. Law enforcement powers are officially recognized. FK. In his heart, he secretly cursed the idiots above who were eating vegetarian food. And on the surface, he could only try his best to maintain calm. Even so, you have arrested all the middle and high-level members of the Gene Bing group, and even found the criminal evidence of each of them. Why? Song has such a little money. Don't tell me that Gene Bing Group controls more than half of the drug trafficking and smuggling transactions. After more than 10 years of accumulation, there is only such a small profit. He picked up a piece of material in front of him and slammed it heavily on the table. Since the Mutant Affairs Bureau is an official and legal institution, will the first action be full of private pockets? When the word spread, all the high-ranking officials in the conference room became serious. To put it bluntly, X-Men's action has been settled, and Jinha Group has become history, which is an unchangeable fact. That being the case, reprimanding the Mutant Affairs Bureau for exceeding its authority and enforcing the law is nothing more than a means. What the officials must never give up is Gene Bing's financial empire. Mr. Smith, what are you talking about? The White Queen looked at him in surprise. In this operation, all the stolen money found in the 112 dens was handed over to the NYPD. How dare you say that the X-Men have enriched themselves of? What the other party laughed back angrily. More than $300 million in cash is really a lot of money, and it can probably be used for normal transactions, right? What about Gene Bing's offshore account and other funds he hides? How would I know this? White Queen looked foolish. You just said that our action was only aimed at the mutants, and we just destroyed the Gene Bing Group's hideout. Now that Gene Bing and those mutants have been arrested, our operation is over. If you want to know how much money he hid, go and try it yourself. What does this have to do with us? God is sorry. She didn't mean to ridicule or show off at all. But when Smith and others heard this, they were all furious, and they only felt the humiliation they had never experienced before. Kim and said he forgot. We even used Veritasrum on him to make sure he wasn't lying, but simply forgot. God knows what kind of expression he had on his face when he said these words. Anyway, his voice was like thunder, shaking the entire office. And that Mrs. Gao, she even confessed all the crimes committed by hand in Hui in New York, but she also forgot all about money. This can't be a coincidence. There is Veritasrum, used in ant, Man, too. Maybe they were hit so hard that they developed psychological problems? The White Queen completely ignored his snarl, without even moving an eyebrow. You should get them psychiatrist instead of asking me, shouldn't you? As she spoke, she clapped her hands and stood up. Well, the Mutant Affairs Bureau has not left any of the people and evidence that should be handed over to NYPD. So the next thing has nothing to do with us. Ignoring the pair of fire-breathing eyes, she walked out with her bag in her hand. I still have to go to the White House to submit a report on combining with the police in various cities to launch an anti-crime operation. Proposal, oh God, that's such a long name. The faces of everyone in the conference room changed drastically. You have no power. Before finishing speaking, White Queen suddenly turned her head. Sun Han's gaze seemed to whip up a gust of cold wind, blowing on everyone's faces. Everyone's breathing was slightly condensed. The Mutant Affairs Bureau is not just an official agency for breaking contracts. White Queen's patience was exhausted, and her words were not so polite. The FBI can set up branches in every state and city. We're just launching an anti-crime operation. Why not? The cold voice went straight to the bottom of my heart. Everyone was sweating coldly. They definitely know that the Mutant Bureau is directly under the White House and is at the same level as the FBI and CIA, but before that, no one took this department seriously. It wasn't until this moment that they finally understood. The Mutant Bureau is not a decoration. Its strength has been undisguised from the beginning. Chapter 93. The Extraordinary World officially opened. The sudden end of the Jinha Group and the Hand Peace Conference seems to have opened the prelude to a new era. The Mutant Affairs Bureau complied with public opinion and launched a joint anti-crime and anti-evil operation with the police in various states and cities, and took vigorous action. The White House actually adopted a tacit attitude towards this. Countless people dropped their jaws in shock. This is undoubtedly an opportunity for the X-Men to gain fame. If this continues, it may not be long before Mutant can completely change his image, from a freak that everyone fears to a human being. A hero that people admire. What do the officials think? Are you really ready to live in peace with Mutant? Or are you waiting for an opportunity? The answer to this question, the vast majority of ordinary people don't care about it all. But for some people, it is like a sword of Damocles hanging above their heads, making them sleep restlessly. Norman Osborn and Victor Doom are two of them. What's the matter? Jean Bing and Mrs. Gao. In the first half of the night, they threatened and lured us to get involved in the business of the Second World, and they were sent to NYPD in the second half of the night. Even Jean Bing's underworld empire also collapsed, and the headquarters of the Handed Society also perished. I'm not dreaming, am I? When the two received the news, they subconsciously thought that they hadn't woken up yet and were in a terrible nightmare. But soon, they accepted the reality. For people jointly seek the agency rights of Oasis, the next day, it was just the two of them. If this has nothing to do with Lynn, they wouldn't believe it even if they were killed. Therefore, the two of them spent the whole day in panic and fear, feeling that they would soon follow in the footsteps of Jean Bing and Mrs. Gao. However, to their great surprise, nothing happened. Lynn seemed to have forgotten their existence and had no intention of attacking them at all, or didn't take them seriously at all. For a moment, in addition to being terrified, the two also had a kind of anger after being ignored. This kind of anger, after spending money to dredge up and meet with Mrs. Jean Bing and Mrs. Gao, turned into despair again. Jean Bing and Mrs. Gao don't know them at all. This matter is not over yet. That Lynn will never let me go. The two shivered and understood this almost at the same time. Never sit still. Norman Osborn is worthy of being a big self-made capitalist. A look of madness soon appeared in his eyes. The human body's strengthening potion is far from mature, but I have no time. At the same time, a hint of ruthlessness appeared in Victor Doom's mind. Hope your machine is built, Reed. What Norman Osborn and Victor Doom didn't know was that Lynn, whom they were thinking of, also thought of the two of them in a flash. If Green Goblin and Dr. Doom are alive, will this world be more exciting? With a faint smile on the corner of his mouth, he quietly looked at the Asian man opposite him. Mr. Wu, I'm sorry I didn't hear what you said just now. Can I trouble you to say it again? Mr. Lynn, someone saw you near the site where the meteorite fell from the sky in the Foot Basin country. The FBI suspects that you are related to this incident. FBI high-level agent James Wu looked serious, with a businesslike attitude. Does Mr. Lynn need to explain this matter? Slander, Lynn said without any hesitation. This is blatant slander. I was with Judge Kate Mara of the federal court that night. How could I appear in the footbath country thousands of miles away? I know very well, Mr. Lynn. You are a mutant, James Wu said coldly. Mutant super abilities are all kinds of strange things. 6 teams of X-Men can destroy 112 dens of the Jinha group overnight. It seems that there is no need to rush. Mr. Lynn must have a way. Arriving in another country in a short period of time? The FBI doesn't need any evidence to handle the case now. It's all based on guesswork? Lynn looked at him with interest. Or do you think that mutant super ability is so powerful that it can control meteorites to fall from the sky? Other mutants may not be able to do it, but Mr. Lin Yu, not necessarily. James Wu's tone became heavier, and he suddenly leaned forward, covering Lin with oppressive eyes. Mr. Lin, as the president of Second World Company, is not only a mutant, but also possesses an epic-making technology like Oasis. Some politicians in the government wanted to use Gene Bing to participate in the business of Oasis. That night, Gene Bing's underworld empire completely collapsed. The Mutant Bureau even dispatched new X-Men for this, a whole 6 teams. Only these, I have reason to doubt, Mr. Lin. Your position in the mutant group is not simple. So, I contacted SHIELD through some relationships, and I found out that Mr. Lin's information was marked as confidential within SHIELD, and the confidentiality level was not higher than that of Professor X and Magneto. Lin was a little surprised. As the FBI, you're actually connected to SHIELD. In my impression, the Asian agent in front of me was able to be responsible for detaining Ant-Man later, and also participated in the Scarlet Witch blockade of the town. He is obviously an elite agent in the FBI. Therefore, after thinking about it for a while, Lin understood. SHIELD also needs talents, and they want to invite you, an elite agent of the FBI? James did not answer his question. Instead, he said to himself, from this, I also thought that recently, mutants' behavior style has changed drastically. It no longer fights independently like before. Instead, it seems that there is a unified leader. Be purposeful and get huge amounts of benefits every time. The new Xavier's School opens enrollment, the Mutant Affairs Bureau was established, and this vigorous anti-crime operation. In a short period of time, the image of mutant has changed greatly. So, I'm going to make a wild guess. He stared at Lin closely and said word by word, Professor X and Magneto no longer lead the mutant group. Mr. Lin, are their leader now? Clap, clap, Lin applauded without hesitation. A wonderful reasoning must have cost a lot of brain cells. He teased and said with a smile, then, is the FBI going to arrest me based on this reasoning? You don't even deny it? James Wu was a little surprised. It seemed that Lin's attitude was beyond his expectation. Why deny it? Lin smiled. He never hid in front of Nick Fury, let alone an FBI agent. As the leader of Mutant, is it something shameful? James Wu was silent for a while, then suddenly sighed heavily. These are just my own guesses. Not only do I not have any evidence, I didn't even tell my boss. Oh, Lin seemed a little surprised. Why? Should this be considered dereliction of duty? Or do you not reject mutant? As an agent, I have experienced some supernatural events, and I know that there are too many unexplainable secrets in this world, which are completely different from ordinary people's imagination. James Wu shook his head. So, for mutants with super abilities on the one hand, I am a little afraid, but on the other hand, I am very envious. The sharpness in his gaze disappeared, replaced by a look of sincerity. If mutant super ability is not used to provoke wars, but to protect the people and even benefit the world for ordinary people like me say, isn't it a good thing? Lynn didn't speak. I can clearly feel that times have changed. As James Wu said, he took out an Oasis bracelet from his pocket. He is a member of this Pioneer Experience program. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Hulk, Abomination, X-Men, Thor, Batman, Superman, and General Zod. People with super strength appear one after another, and alien civilizations gradually appear on the Earth. The world is undergoing earth-shaking changes. Variety. Rubbing the bracelet, his eyes became complicated. And when I was in the world of Oasis, I personally experienced the feeling of having a super ability, that kind of reality, that kind of carefreeness. It made me believe in this even more. Super technology and super ability will gradually become the mainstream of the human world. Crimes in the future will become more and more terrifying. And for ordinary people like me, it is undoubtedly extremely difficult to survive in such a terrible world, and to survive better. Here. Lynn already understood what he meant. So, you came to me today. I want to work with Mutant. James Wu took a deep breath, and his words were sonorous. Inspector Catherine of NYPD can become Mutant's partner. She has repeatedly solved major cases in a short period of time, and has even become a popular candidate for the next director. Judge Kate of the federal court can follow Mutant cooperates. The prestige is getting higher day by day. The future is limitless. Me, FBI high-level agent James Wu. Why not? Although I am Asian, it is more and more difficult to get promoted step by step in the FBI, but why can't I dream that one day I can sit in the director's seat? At this moment, his face was full of undisguised ambition. Apparently, this high-level agent of the FBI, after experiencing many things, vaguely saw a little bit of the truth of the world and understood the rise of Mutant even more already unstoppable. He wants to get on this bus. Same with Catherine and Kate. The difference is that Catherine and Kate are Lynn's people from the beginning. So strictly speaking, this is the first time since Lynn started a series of projects, ordinary people who are attracted by the future of Mutant, and he dared to propose cooperation, definitely because of his identity. Catherine is in the police force, Kate is in the courthouse, and Maura is in the CIA. These three people who have clearly stood for Mutant are in three extremely important official institutions. This is obviously not a coincidence. That being the case, why can't I, James Wu, be Mutant spokesperson in the FBI? Mr. Lynn. James Wu's voice trembled slightly, and there was a trace of tension in the depths of his eyes. Lynn looked at him calmly. His deep gaze seemed to penetrate the heart. After a long time, he spoke softly. James, what is your super ability in Oasis? James Wu was taken aback for a moment and said subconsciously, it's the law. Yeah, magic. The corners of Lynn's mouth showed a faint curve. Have you ever thought about the things you just said? All the clues are on the table, and everyone in the FBI should be able to know, but why only you string them together? And then through these appearances, you saw the truth of the world little by little. What? James Wu looked blank, apparently never thinking about this question. Because you're not an ordinary person originally. Lynn got up slowly, walked to him, and patted him on the shoulder. Your magic ability has been activated, so you will become smarter than before. And because of this, you're the only one who can stand in front of me in this ever-flowing sea of people. Haha. Get it? James Wu's heart trembled violently. Before he could react, he felt a tremor in the surrounding space, accompanied by a faint ray of light spreading out like a tide. Everything in his sight changed. It turned out that he and Lynn were not communicating in the office at all, but in the bustling street, surrounded by pedestrians and traffic, is a bustling scene of hustle and bustle. James Wu was stunned. Just about to speak, Lynn's cell phone rang suddenly, and Alice's voice reached her ears. Master, Mr. Stark is calling. Lynn knew what Tony was going to say without answering the phone, because from his perspective, he could see the roof of the Stark building a few kilometers ahead, and suddenly there was a glaring beam of light that shot straight into the sky, like a sharp sword, piercing straight into the sky. James, you're right about one thing. Lynn patted James Wu's shoulder again and said with a smile, the times have changed. We will usher in an unparalleled and extraordinary world, and this era belongs to Mutant. Before the words fell, Lynn's figure had disappeared. Only James Wu was left staring at the beam of light in the distance, shocked and confused in his heart like a tidal wave. What does Mr. Lynn mean? Did I find him, or did he find me? My magic ability is activated? Magic ability? I have magic ability? Suddenly, his heartbeat accelerated slightly, and his breathing became more and more rapid. He looked down at his palms. I don't know when a mark appeared on it. That is a light that illuminates his soul world. Chapter 94 Loki. Unexpectedly, SHIELD has fallen. There was a flash of light. Lynn appears in the Stark building, outside the glass office on the top floor. In sight, the soaring beam of light emitted by the Tesseract, in addition to opening a larger and larger space wormhole in the sky, unexpectedly spread a translucent light curtain downwards, wrapping the entire Stark building. Tony, who was wearing the latest battle suit, was locked inside by this light curtain. The president's office, which Lynn had visited many times, was already dilapidated, and everywhere was scorched black from the pulse cannon bombardment. Obviously, before this, Tony had already fought several rounds with his opponent. But meaningless. His opponent was unharmed. Lynn, your prophecy has come true. As soon as Tony saw Lynn's figure, the steel mask fell down, revealing an anxious and helpless face. Aliens really invaded the Earth. They used the energy from the Stark building to activate the Tesseract, and wanted to open the space wormhole, send an alien star army, put in. I've seen it all, Tony. Lynn opened her mouth lightly, her face, as usual. Out of confidence in Lynn, Tony breathed a sigh of relief after he arrived. He looked at the light curtain outside the glass and said with hope in his eyes, "So, you must be able to break this mask, right?" Lynn didn't answer, but looked at his opponent. With a thin figure, a confident smile, and a dress that is completely different from the Earth, he holds a staff inlaid with mind gem in his hand. This is definitely Loki. It seems that you're Mr. Stark's backstage, the strongest magician on Earth. The old god Loki was sitting on the sofa, holding a glass of wine in his left hand, and locked his playful eyes on Lynn. As the #1 magician in the 9 realms, I am also curious, can you break this? The energy seal formed. Apparently, with both Tony and 800 Hulk being recruited by the new Xavier School instead of joining the Avengers. Things were very different from the scenario Lynn remembered. He had expected this. Therefore, at this moment, he was not in a hurry, snapped his fingers casually, and a sofa appeared behind him out of thin air, suspended in the subject. Then, under Tony's bewildered gaze, he also sat down with an old god and communicated with Loki through the mask. I don't dare to be called the strongest magician on Earth. He smiled and shook his head. As for Mr. Loki's title of the #1 magician in the 9 realms, it seems that it is not worthy of the name. Otherwise, it is just a blockade of a building. Why use the calendar area of Tesseract? Loki's face froze slightly. Lynn's calmness exceeded his expectations. Thanks to Mr. Lynn, as the god of intrigue, Loki likes to watch others being played around with impotent and furious expressions on their faces, which makes him feel a sense of joy from the bottom of his heart. So he doesn't like Lynn's calmness very much. If I didn't accidentally hear that Mutant made a lot of noise when I came to Earth, I might have failed due to carelessness. Oh, Lynn raised her left hand falsely. I would like to hear more about it. First, I snatched the Tesseract from S.H.I.E.L.D. Loki seems to enjoy this feeling of victory in sight and wants to use psychological tactics to attack opponents. So he explained with a smile. Humans are really ridiculous creatures. They're obviously weak and pitiful, but they want to master the powerful power of the Tesseract. As a result, but it exposed the location of the Rubik's Cube, allowing me to hit it. The child holds gold to go through the busy market. That's how it is. Lynn nodded. Luo, Chawa, obviously didn't understand the essence of Dragon Kingdom culture. He was taken aback for a moment before continuing. At that time, I controlled Eric Savig, who was researching Tesseract, and the Agent Barton of S.H.I.E.L.D. Originally, I thought this would be enough. These two people, one is used to build the machine and activate the power of Tesseract, and the other is used to deal with SHIELD. But what I didn't expect was that when they were chatting with me, they all said that the biggest threat on Earth is not SHIELD, but the mutant from the new Xavier School. This makes me very curious. So, I investigated about Mutant, New Xavier School, Mutant Bureau, Second World, X-Men with increasingly large teams. I have to say, Mr. Lynn is very good at it. Loki, who controlled Hawkeye, obviously knew a lot of secrets. When he said this, there was an expression of appreciation on his face. In a short period of time, Mutant's situation has been drastically reversed, and everyone is about to shout. The monster I beat has become a superhero that everyone admires. Lynn said nothing about it. Not even the slightest change in Shindu. Loki choked, and a trace of anger could not help but appear on his face. In my eyes, the Earth has always been a backward, primitive, and remote planet, but I didn't expect you to integrate the power of the mutant. And there seem to be a few people in X-Men, a person whom I fear, so I can't help but be careless, so? Lynn finally had a look of curiosity in his eyes. In his impression, the so-called #1 magician in the 9 realms, the god of tricks, never seemed to have a convincing record. It was not so much trickery as it was a solid background. No matter how many casualties there would be no price to pay, that's all. But that's just a movie after all. The Loki in front of him is the real Loki. Although he is arrogant, conceited, and defiant, but obviously very smart. After discovering that the situation on the Earth was different from what he expected, he decisively changed the established strategy. So what exactly did he do? At this moment, a solemn look appeared on Tony's face, and his intuition told him that this alien who suddenly descended on the Earth, before using the Tesseract to block the Stark building, absolutely did something terrible. I voluntarily surrender. Loki seemed to notice the change in Lynn's expression and nodded in satisfaction. Child sent someone to arrest me. I don't have the slightest hesitation. Surrender. And then I was locked up in their aircraft carrier. The director of SHILD is that dark-skinned, one-eyed dragon. He formed a so-called Avengers to protect the world. I want to see who he found, but I didn't expect. The so-called superhero is just a bunch of rabble. Tony's brow furrowed tightly. This guy seems to be particularly enjoying the current process. He talked for a long time without focusing on it. Lynn didn't care, but asked curiously, "Who are the Avengers of SHILD? An old guy who is said to have been frozen for 70 years, a pretty female agent without any super abilities, a steel armor soldier dressed similarly to this guy." Loki glanced at Tony. "There's another guy, wearing a weird battle suit, who can suddenly become as small as an ant. Oh, he's so verbose. I can't wait to put him up." There's also a big green guy who is locked in a cage. I see tyranny, madness, an endless desire for destruction in his heart. People from SHILD seem to want to release him at certain special moments, as a surprise soldier. Definitely, and my cute but annoying big brother. He visibly grits his teeth at the mention of Thor. Tony's expression changed again and again, and he subconsciously looked at Lynn. "The big green guy. Is it Abomination?" Lynn nodded. "Captain America, Black Widow, Thor, War Machine, Ant-Man, Abomination, plus Hawkeye controlled by Loki are obviously the first-generation members of Avengers. Is Nick Fury crazy?" Tony roared angrily. "Abomination has lost its mind. A monster who only knows destruction. He actually thinks it can be used as a surprise soldier. Normal people definitely would not do such a thing. But Nick Fury? He always seems to feel that he can control everything, and he will never let go of any power that can be used. This is completely in line with his style of doing things." "That's right. I thought exactly like you at the time." Looking at Tony's eyes, Loki actually had a sympathetic expression. It would be fine if SHILD had the power to control that big guy. But according to my observation, if it wasn't for my big brother who also came to Earth, Avengers, all of them together, may not have enough strength to deal with that big guy. In the case of Nick Fury, he's definitely left behind. It's just that Loki didn't know it. He took a sip of wine and talked softly. "Human beings are weak but arrogant. It really opened my eyes." "Enough." Tony snorted coldly. His eyes flashed coldly. "Humans are not only SHILD. Definitely. And you, Iron Man," Loki shrugged. "The new type of reactor you developed actually has energy far beyond the Earth's technology, so I give you 100% respect. In order to prevent you from getting in the way, I slightly modified the Tesseract. The device sealed the entire building." Tony almost couldn't help shouting. "Such respect, don't let it go. Pity him for staying at home and transforming the steel battle suit." Just when the inspiration exploded, he suddenly found out that the crystal has been taken by someone. Hurry up and drive away the foreign enemies. All the weapons can't hurt the opponent. At the time, seeing the pulse cannon go right through Loki's body, he knew it. This guy's a magician too. He hates magicians. Don't get excited, Tony. Lynn's voice came from outside the mask. Mr. Loki hasn't said how he escaped from SHIELD's prison and appeared here again. Tony was about to speak. Loki already smiled wickedly. It's very simple. He raised the psychic scepter in his right hand and said word by word, I control everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D. Except for the one-eyed dragon who ran away, everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D., including their aircraft carrier. And now it's all for me. Tony's face froze on the spot. WTF? Chapter 95, Have you ever thought about one thing? Seeing the change in Tony's face, the smug look in Loki's eyes could hardly be concealed. But when he looked at Lynn again, this feeling of complacency was instantly suppressed. Where's Thor? Lynn looked at him calmly. Thor in Asgard is also controlled by your scepter? It has to be said that compared to the Loki in memory, the Loki in front of him looks more like a god of trickery. He actually discovered the magical effect of the psychic scepter, apparently, during the period when he came to Earth. He learned a lot through the matter of mutant. At least he didn't control a Hawkeye and an Eric Savage like in the original plot, so he felt that he could single-handedly swipe the Earth dungeon. BT, how can you blindly believe the words of the god of trickery? Thor. The pupils in Loki's eyes shrank slightly, and things were not going as smoothly as he imagined. He stared at Lynn closely and said, You seem to know something about Asgard? I didn't say my big brother's name just now. Lynn smiled. As a magician, the knowledge you have is always a little richer than ordinary people. He's not a threat anymore. Loki's tone suddenly fluctuated. Thanks to that big green guy, I just stimulated his violent heart a little bit. In his eyes, only my poor big brother is left, and there is only one person in his mind. Thoughts are destruction. Nobody knows my stupid big brother better than I do. He's got nothing but muscle and brute force in his head, and he's the ultimate ego who can easily slip into mania. So, until that big green guy is dealt with, he won't show up here. Understood. Thor is pinned down. Nick Fury escapes. Beyond that, almost all of SHIELD fell. Lynn nodded. Indeed, she looked at Loki differently. This slight change in expression has already been caught by Loki, and he became excited again. Now, the gate of space has been opened, my army is approaching the city, and all the Asgardians on your Earth have become mine. After today, I will step on the mountain of corpses and the sea of blood, and be crowned king. Mr. Lynn, I appreciate your means. If you're willing to work for me, I can give you and your mutant the treatment you deserve. In the future, you will follow me back to Asgard and help me regain my revenge. I can even hand over the Earth to your rule. The god of trickery seems to be trying to play tricks all the time, and his voice is full of temptation. You mutants have been oppressed for so many years. Don't you want to become the master of this planet? Surrender to me. I can give you everything. Up to this point in the conversation, Tony has already discovered that no matter how deep the scheming and terrible methods of this alien visitor, he is a person who is arrogant and eager for quick success in his bones. He actually wanted Lynn to submit? Are you afraid you are dreaming? Based on what he knew about Lynn during this period, Tony sneered directly. This Loki obviously knows nothing about Lynn's unfathomable. This invasion was predicted long ago. How could Lynn have no hole cards? Ow! Loki was not angry, but looked at Lynn with interest. Under the current situation, those X-Men under your command don't want to fight with me? Without waiting for Lynn to respond, he said to himself, the most powerful mutant on Earth is that Professor X and Magneto. Unfortunately, Chitauri's body and weapon are integrated, not a pure metal creation. Magneto's ability to manipulate metal may not have much room for use. As for Professor X's mind ability, you let him come and try to manipulate Chitauri's mind? The implication is that the two strongest mutants on Earth are also helpless in the face of this situation. This is definitely Loki's psychological tactic. To some extent, it may not be a lie. Although he didn't say it, Lynn knew that Chitauri would lose consciousness after the mothership was destroyed, which shows that the individuals of this alien race do not have a complete soul, and to a large extent, they will not be destroyed. Affected by Professor X's mental ability. You are really very confident, Lynn couldn't help but said. After talking for a long time, Loki explained all his plans of action seemingly stupidly. But in fact, except that Thor is pinned down by the abomination. Where did the controlled Avengers members go? Will SHIELD's mothership appear? And how will the Chitauri army deal with the X-Men? He didn't say a word. This trick god has been delaying time. And what he was procrastinating for, Lynn and Tony soon found out. Boom! The beam of light emitted by the Tesseract suddenly trembled violently. And the next moment, the space wormhole in the sky suddenly stopped after expanding to a certain extent. As a result, the huge energy rushing out from the Tesseract spread out around the wormhole. Among countless panicked eyes, for beams of light spread from 4 directions like 4 endless bridges. The people in the Twisted Contract definitely don't know the end points of these 4 bridges, but there are very few people who guessed it at once. There will be another space wormhole 100% at the end point of the bridges. 5 portals. Chitauri's army will attack the Earth from 5 places. Great Gift Crab's special. Tony was the one who reacted the fastest. His face turned pale in an instant through the sealing mask. He could already see the densely packed Chitauri army flying out of the wormhole like a day of locusts. Behind the army, there is also a huge Leviathan beast. Without fighting at all, Tony knows that the technology of this alien army is far superior to that of the Earth. Even if the military sends all the troops, it may not be able to stop it. Only superhero group can. And such a large army would appear in 5 different places at the same time. This is a nightmare for Earth. Lynn, a strong panic surged in his heart. Tony couldn't keep calm anymore. He looked at Lynn for the first time. Lynn finally stood up from the sofa. Seeing this scene, Loki laughed loudly. Isn't it too late to realize it now? There are 5 space transmission channels and countless Chitauri armies. Even if you call all the X-Men, how many people can there be? How long can it last? Surrender is your only choice now. He laughed unscrupulously, full of pride after the trick succeeded. At the same time, it seems that he wants to vent all the grievances he has received on Thor. Lynn's expression suddenly became strange. Battle of New York? Had it spread globally? He looked at Loki and sighed softly. Have you ever thought about something small? Chapter 96. The universe is a chessboard. All parties make pieces. At the moment, Tony's heart was extremely anxious. But for some reason, Lynn's voice seemed to have a strange magic power, instantly erasing all his restless emotions. Sanity returns again. He looked at Lynn and waited. You control everyone in SHIELD, but why did you let Nick Fury, an agent who doesn't have any super abilities and has been out of the front line for a long time? Loki's laughter stops abruptly. There was a look of doubt in his eyes. Obviously, he didn't expect that Lynn would care about such trivial issues under such circumstances. Don't say you're careless. Lynn's gaze seemed to be able to see through everything, right into Loki's heart. Perhaps you, the #1 magician in the 9 realms, is not worthy of your name. There are many people who can escape from your hands, but among them, definitely not including Nick Fury. At least, you can have the Avengers go get him back, can't you? But you didn't do that. Why 577? If it's the Loki she remembers, Lynn won't have any questions about it. But this one in front of him is obviously not that stupid. Since he realized the use of the psychic scepter and controlled everyone in SHIELD in one fell swoop, how could he just miss Nick Fury? That's the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. He only has 1 Avengers and 1 mothership. What if the opponent still has a stronger power? After all, there are not only those superheroes on the Earth. Loki was immediately dumbfounded by the question. It's just an ant. He spoke subconsciously, expressing his disdain for Nick Fury. Maybe you look down on Earthlings from the bottom of your heart. So it doesn't matter if Nick Fury escapes. Lynn interrupted him lightly. Her eyes flashed, and a strange color appeared. But in my opinion, there's another possibility. That is, you let him go on purpose. As soon as these words came out, Tony's heart trembled. The pupils in Loki's eyes shrank suddenly. In your subconscious mind, you don't really want this invasion of Earth to succeed, do you? Lynn said her guess lightly. The Earth is just a wild planet in a remote star field. How attractive is it to you, who aspires to become the king of Asgard and the master of the 9 realms? Obviously, I don't like this planet from the bottom of my heart, but I have spent a lot of time to launch this war because you have no other choice. Because the leader of this invasion is not you. You are at best a leading party. Lynn pointed to the more and more Chitauri army in the sky, looked at Tony. Look, he didn't even command this army, but sealed himself in this hood too. Enough! Loki suddenly drank heavily, and the wine glass in his left hand exploded with a bang. Tony suddenly realized, this really does not meet the identity of a commander. That's right. Lynn's eyes turned to the psychic scepter in Loki's hand. Holding a weapon that doesn't belong to you, commanding an army that doesn't belong to you, hiding in an impenetrable defensive cover. Does this mean you, the leading party, are not willing? The reason why you work so hard is just because you can't bear the consequences of failure. It seems that your boss is terrible. Loki stood up abruptly. His face was so gloomy that water dripped out. Then, an interesting question arises. Lynn said to herself, since your boss is so powerful and interested in the Earth, why doesn't he take action himself? Is there anything else in this primitive, backward, wild planet under our feet that makes this powerful, the alien overlord feel afraid? Needless to say, these words were actually addressed to Tony. It is also a guess made by Lynn, combining the plot and memory and what happened in reality. You magician, you seem to know a lot of things beyond the Earth. Loki's eyes were full of surprise, and he gritted his teeth almost word by word. As I said, as a magician, you always know more than anyone else. Lynn smiled slightly and began to control the rhythm from this moment. He knew very well that behind Loki was Thanos, and the ones who could make Thanos feel afraid were naturally the king of God Odin and Sorcerer Supreme, Ancient One. Definitely, in this world, there may be some other powerful existences. After all, the existence of Superman has never been a secret. God knows if there are any big bosses hidden on the Earth. But even without these, as long as Odin and Ancient One are still there, it is impossible for Thanos to attack the Earth without collecting 6 infinite gems. That is to say, this invasion seems to be mighty. In fact, it was just a trial. This can be seen from the fact that the main force of this invasion is Chitauri. Thanos commanded Ronan. Ronan didn't send out his elite Kree army. Instead found Chitauri. Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy said that the Chitauri army is the most garbage army in the universe. I guess, with the wisdom of the god of tricks, he should have seen this point. Lynn clearly saw the change in Loki's face and smiled brighter. Maybe your boss has offered you some kind of unrefusable condition, or maybe he is threatening your life. But no matter what, you can tell, this invasion is just a trial. It is impossible to succeed. You and this so-called Chitauri army, it's all just cannon fodder. And the conditions your boss promised you are simply impossible to fulfill. This sentence was like a sharp knife, piercing directly into Loki's heart. His whole body trembled violently. The expression on his face was not only shocked, but also angry that his mind had been exposed. The majestic god of trickery, to be seen through by a mortal on Earth. This is a great shame for him. It is precisely because you know where you are that you don't want this invasion to succeed. Lynn ignored the change in his expression and continued. You let Nick Fury go on purpose, just in the slightest hope that this boss of a Seychelles might be able to find some way to stop you. In this way, although you will become a prisoner, you could be brought back to Asgard by your big brother. Losing freedom, regaining safety. It's a good deal, isn't it? I have to say that Lynn's guess is extremely unbelievable, but it can explain all of Loki's behavioral motives. It is also more in line with his title of the god of tricks. Tony was already shocked from ear to ear and turned his head to look at Loki in disbelief. The disaster in his eyes turned out to be just a game from an alien civilization? Yes. At this moment, these 2 words appeared in Tony's mind unconsciously. In a trance, he suddenly realized the huge gap of 5.0 between the Earth and the alien civilization. Before that, despite Lynn's prophecy, he was only skeptical, and he was not too disturbed or disturbed. But at the moment, I really felt the fear. So this is the truth of the world. It turns out that the Earth is really in danger. Earth magician. Loki's complexion changed again and again, and his chest heaved violently. He looked at Lynn's still calm eyes and suddenly had an ominous premonition in his heart. What do you want to say, Z? He didn't admit it, but his behavior at the moment has made Lynn understand everything. Lynn stopped smiling. It's very simple. Gujing Wubwa's gaze became sharp at this moment. If the universe is a chessboard, Mr. Loki, you're just one of the chess pieces, so there's no need for you to be so excited. In this game of chess, the person behind has already made a move. Now, it's the mutant's turn. Chapter 97 Mutant. Stand up. Because of the butterfly effect, Loki's invasion has undergone huge amounts of changes. But Lynn isn't worried about that at all. The Battle of New York was the opportunity he had been waiting for a long time. The big event of alien invasion would undoubtedly shake the world, and this news would surely break through the internet barriers and spread to all countries in the world. What Oasis wants to catch is this wave of traffic. But now, Loki changed the Tesseract device, causing space wormholes to appear in 5 places around the world, and the Chitauri army entered the Earth in 5 ways. Even helped Lynn in a way. The X-Men have already made full preparations and have been dispatched at the first time. On the square of the new Xavier School, more than 1,000 students gathered here, all looking nervous and excited. Light curtains appeared in midair, and it was Lynn's mirror image duplication that raised his hand to transform these light curtains. The real mirror image technique of the 5th ring can separate a mirror image duplication whose strength is exactly the same as the deity. And when it comes to the 6th ring, the number of duplications becomes 2. The duration has also increased from half an hour to an hour. The most important thing is that the deity and the duplication can share thoughts. Therefore, what happened on the Stark building side? The mirror image duplication here is very clear. A set of 5 space wormholes, respectively located in the sky above the 5 cities of Twilight, Wudu, Australia, Neon, and Paul. Lynn roughly explained the situation, and then turned to the 6 teams of X-Men on the square. What should I do? Don't I need to say more? Don't worry, Lynn. Because of your prophecy magic, we have prepared so long in advance. Killing these alien monsters is easy. With a cigar in her mouth forever, Wolverine Logan spoke calmly. Lynn nodded, raising her hand again. Portals appeared out of thin air one by one. 6 teams of X-Men crossed separately. 30 Lynn's face was a little strange, looking at Professor X in the teacher's seat. Professor? Don't worry, I'm going to brainwave strengthening now. I don't know when it started, but Professor X got used to Lynn giving orders. He smiled slightly and left the square with his wheelchair. Some students want to follow him to see and see. Magneto's cold eyes immediately struck. We are all here to observe and study, and after the end, everyone will hand in 10 assignments on combat skills and the use of super abilities. What? The sound of wailing instantly spread throughout the audience. Fog. When the dense Chitauri army flew out of the space wormhole, the entire city was instantly enveloped in fear, panic, and despair. Living in this world, people have gradually become accustomed to superheroes and various super ability crimes. But being attacked by an alien army suddenly was beyond their acceptance. What's the matter? No mental preparation at all. Chitauri's army obviously didn't intend to let the people prepare their minds before attacking. As soon as they appeared, they drove a special flight device and opened fire crazily among the tall buildings, killing everyone they saw. Explosions, howling, panic screams, moans of despair instantly filled the whole city. The official response speed is not unreasonable. The nearby garrison rushed to the scene as soon as possible. However, facing the Chitauri army, whose weapons are far beyond the technological level of the Earth, whether it is tanks or missiles, they all seem so weak. When the gigantic Leviathan beast that almost covered the sky passed through the wormhole, and appeared above the city. It crashed countless buildings as it passed. The morale of the army collapsed to the bottom in an instant. FK. How to fight this? All the on-site commanders were stunned, and the soldiers under their command defected without the slightest suspense. This is not a war on the same level at all. Ordinary human beings are completely helpless in the face of this alien army. God, are human beings going to perish completely today? For a time, such thoughts popped up in the hearts of countless people. And as if in response to them, God suddenly appeared at this moment, its X-Men. Boom! Suddenly there were bursts of thunder in the sky, and the next moment, accompanied by countless thunderbolts and lightning, a figure with white hair and black clothes shot into the sky like a god, and wherever it passed, Chitauri flight weapons, boom, boom, blasted. Countless lightning fell, and the densely packed Zeta Swiss soldiers on the ground street disappeared in an instant. It's Storm. Cheers of surprise followed one after another. The people who were still shrouded in despair just now saw hope suddenly, and all of them jumped up happily. Now that Storm appeared, her team of X-Men naturally also came, including 6 X-Men, including Fireman John, Lucas Bishop, Carl when the Mimic, and Petra the Earth Manipulator. Men divided into 4 teams and headed towards the 4 directions of east, west, north, and south respectively. Last time on the playground of Xavier's school, these people's control over their own abilities was just mediocre. However, after experiencing the devil training in the world of Oasis, their strength has undergone earth-shaking changes. Lynn is demanding a lot from the X-Men. Those who are not strong enough are not eligible to join at all. Under such circumstances, they dared to split up and act, obviously with absolute confidence. Ha ha ha! Lynn's tailor-made magic equipment for X-Men is so cool. Burning John's face was full of excitement. Every time he took a step, a faint ray of light flashed across his combat boots, making him extremely fast, no less than an ordinary speed-type mutant. This is an enchanted item. It is imprinted with the 3-ring magic foot. At the same time, flames burst out of his black gloves all the time. This allowed him to use his fire ability at will without relying on lighters and the like. He actually used his fingers as guns, shooting out very thin flames with enchanting 3 rings, endless flames. The thin flames are like 6-veined swords. The moment it hit the Zeta Swiss soldier, it pierced the opponent, but it didn't pass through the body, but exploded in the opponent's body. A humanoid fireball appeared on the street, and those laser weapons of Chitauri were blocked by the fleeting magic shield the moment they hit the battlesuit on his body. Occasionally, those laser weapons that passed through the magic shield only caused a layer of ripples on the battlesuit. Enchanting 3 rings, air shield. Vibranium battlesuit. Yes, the first generation of X-Men battlesuits were mixed with a little vibranium. Although the number is very small, it is enough to greatly enhance the defense of the battlesuit. This is because Xavier's school has not learned nanotechnology from Princess Surue. If there is nanotechnology blessing, add a little more vibranium, and the defense of the battlesuit will match Tony's nano armor. Woohoo! Burning John's cheerful voice resounded through the long street, and he leaped from time to time, and a wind wing quietly appeared behind the battlesuit, allowing him to take a short flight. Enchanting 3 rings, wind wings. This complete set of tailor-made uniforms is the confidence of the new X-Men. The magic level contained in it is not high, but can comprehensively improve their super ability, speed, action history, and defense history. In fact, the moment he put on this battle suit, the resentment towards Lynn and Burning Man, John's heart has completely dissipated. Instead, it was all from the bottom of my heart. In his eyes, Lynn is omnipotent. Because of this, he did not forget what Lynn had told him, and at intervals, he took out a cylindrical object of the file size of a pen from the pocket that had cast the no trace stretch curse and threw it on the ground. This is a mass-crafted enchanted item. There is a ring of sound amplification imprinted on it. People in the other 3 orientations did the same. So, as they traveled farther and farther, dropping more and more loudspeakers, Storm's voice suddenly came out of them, like thunder resounding throughout the city. Mutants, it's time to stand up. For a long time, We have been rejected, hostile, and even regarded as monsters. But we are clear in our hearts that mutant genes have never been defects, but human evolution. Now, human beings are facing the invasion of aliens, and life and death are only a moment away. Mutant at the moment is not coming out. When will it be? Let aliens see our power. Let the whole world see our evolutionary achievements. And let our voice resound in today's foggy city. We are human beings with super ability, the guardians of Earth. Mutant, never be a slave. Earthlings, never be slaves. The very simple and rude slogan, accompanied by the voice of storm, swept the entire city like waves. Everyone who heard this voice was stunned. No one thought that under such circumstances, the X-Men would summon other mutants hidden in the foggy city. What they didn't expect was that when the sound wave spread farther and farther, it became louder and louder. By my side, one person stood up, Charlie. In a corner of the ruins, a middle-aged man turned his head in disbelief, looking at his friend of 30 years. "You are mutant?" "Yes, Hank." Charlie, who looked like a professional elite in suits and leather shoes, stood up from the bunker bit by bit, as if responding to his friends, and also seemed to respond to the ubiquitous voice. "I, Charlie Ed Ryan, am a mutant." As if he had exhausted all his strength, his voice was exceptionally loud. Everyone hiding nearby heard it. Amid shock, fear, envy, contempt, admiration, and other complex gazes, this mutant, who had been hiding for more than 30 years, walked out of the bunker firmly. Ahead is a team of Zeta Swiss soldiers who just landed. Mutants are never slaves. With a loud shout, Charlie rushed out. In a cafe, Mother, a woman who was over 40 years old, stared blankly at her gray-haired old mother and stood up under the call of that voice. "Yes, you are right, my child." The old mother's face is full of kindness, but her eyes are a little bit firm. "I am a mutant who has been hiding for a lifetime. I go to school, get married, have children, and provide for the elderly. My life is almost over, but I have never talked to anyone." Said, "I am a mutant. Although my ability is very weak, I can only control little plants, so I've been a gardener all my life. But I am indeed a mutant. Today, if I don't say anything, I'm afraid I won't have a chance." The old voice spread throughout the coffee shop. The next moment, dozens of people hiding here stared blankly at this with an old figure. He pushed open the door of the coffee shop little by little. Several Zeta Swiss soldiers who were nearby turned their guns and aimed at her in an instant. But at the moment, the flowers and plants on the side of the road suddenly soared, and the branches, stems, leaves, and flowers were intertwined like sharp arrows, piercing their heads with a few chi and chi. No matter how weak a mutant is, it's still a mutant. Alien monsters like you can't underestimate it. After a slight murmur, there was a heavy roar. "Mutant, never be a slave." The same scene not only happened in every corner of Fog City, but also happened in Neon, Australia, and several other cities at the same time. People living in these cities seem to have had a weird dream. After waking up, they suddenly found that there are so many mutants around them. At the beginning, not many mutants stood out, but as time passed, more and more people responded to the call and came out of hiding places. When they rushed the street and merged with X-Men one by one, like a trickle, little by little evolved into a majestic wave, all the Zeta Swiss soldiers heard. 10 noises. Mutants are never slaves. Mutant, stand up. Looking at the whole world, this sound is not too loud, and it is only limited to a few cities. However, with the continuation of this war, and with the ferment of public opinion that will inevitably occur after the end of the war, more and more mutants are willing to stand up, spreading from city to country by country, and eventually to sweep the world. And this time, it's far from over. Chapter 98, you have an army, don't I? Stark Building. 5 light curtains appeared at unknown times, floating side by side outside the energy shield. Impressively, it is the picture of the 5 major battlefields. Mutants' armies? Loki's face was gloomy. When the hidden mutants stood up one by one in the 5 cities in the picture and joined the X-Men team, his brows became more and more tightly frowned, as if he could kill a fly. He beheld the terrifying power of the thunder and lightning cast by storm. I also saw that the Cyclops team was invincible on the Australian battlefield. This mutant, who is extremely important in the X-Men series but has an inconspicuous record, played an amazing role in a green battlesuit and a pair of silver glasses. The power of the silver glasses seem to have several modes. Sometimes the laser light becomes extremely thin, gaining terrifying penetration like a laser, and sometimes becomes thick as a pillar, and its power is multiplied exponentially. Even the indestructible skin of the giant Leviathan can't stop it. The most terrifying short-frequency mode, the laser light, seems to be cut into countless lines like bullets shooting out almost every time can harvest all the Zeta Swiss soldiers in sight. Loki can see that this mode reduces the power of laser light, but greatly reduces the energy consumption of Cyclops. His staying power is greatly increased. With the battle suit on the body, it provides a huge blessing of mobility and defense. This red and green mutant is undoubtedly a battlefield harvester, and his teammate, Thunderbird's green battle suit, is doped with more vibranium than other X-Men, which maximizes his copper-skinned and iron-framed ability. With him as the vanguard, Mei Ming and the three Cuckoo sisters, who do not have the ability to fight head-on, with the blessing of the battle suit, hold a retro-shaped magic gun with complicated inscriptions engraved on it. Just shoot, shoot, shoot. Gun. Obviously, it is a newly formed X-Men team, but it also has a unique ability. At the same time, the two teams of Kraken and Mystique are fighting together, wearing blue uniforms, and they are red-eyed in the neon battlefield. And on Paul's battlefield, the strength of the members of the Gambit squad, all in purple uniforms, has also increased by at least several times. This increase is even more obvious in the Wolverine and Phoenix teams on the battlefield. I have seen the X-Men's battle screen. Their strength is not so strong. Loki took a breath, moved his gaze away from the light curtain with difficulty, and landed on Lynn again. If I'm not mistaken, the battle suits on them are all made by you, right? You magician of this earth. Really surprised me. His tone is full of intense and extreme disbelief. In the picture of the neon battlefield, he even saw the steel helmet on Juggernaut's head. And after a layer of golden light shrouded his whole body, his body grew dozens of times unbelievably. Then, like a crazy giant bull, it collided with the giant Leviathan head-on. Good to see you. The head of the giant Leviathan was crushed. Simply outrageous. There is also the Gambit on Paul's battlefield, holding a metal stick in his hand, which is also imprinted with dense inscriptions. After being thrown out like a javelin, the metal stick seemed to have infinite kinetic energy, and it exploded dozens of times along the way. Heads of 100 Zeta Swiss soldiers. This thing even comes with a self-seeking function. Even after the kinetic energy disappears, it will automatically return to the card-thick minister. Are you sure this is a mutant? Instead of Asgard's god of war. Excellent. Lynn nodded slightly and smiled contemptuously. The new Xavier School has been committed to the combination of super ability and technology, and luckily there are some research results. Headed by Wolverine, Phoenix, and other original members, the 7 X-Men teams were rebuilt. Each member's battle suit was tailored by him according to the other party's super ability. Although the magic attached to the battle suit basically only has 3 rings, but combined with the super ability of the team members, it undoubtedly produced an extremely explosive chemical reaction. The combat effectiveness of the new X-Men is many times stronger than before. This is also the example Lynn sets for her students. Encourage them to work hard in this direction in their future studies. I believe that after this incident, every student in the college will realize the power of super ability equipment and will devote himself to this brand new field in the future. If things go on like this, a brand new branch of earth science and technology will emerge. Super technology. You are really good. Loki emphasized again, although he tried his best to maintain calm. His voice trembled slightly. I actually thought of using the threat of the Chitauri army to force those mutants who hide their identities out. Lynn shrugged. There are mutants on the Earth, and mutants have never been bullied. So what? Loki suddenly yelled, and took a few steps forward. I admit that this was beyond my expectation, but even so, how many mutants are there in 5 cities? Hundreds? Thousands? My army is tens of thousands. The temporary army of mutants is nothing more than a group of rabble. How long can it resist? The situation will not change in the slightest. As if in response to his words, the space wormhole in the sky trembled again, and more Chitauri army and Leviathan monsters appeared on the battlefield, overwhelming and powerful. Loki's face once again showed a high-spirited look. Don't forget, SHIELD is still under my control, although those people in Avengers are weak and pitiful. But to cause you X-Men some trouble, you have to be easy. Advantage, always with me. Tony gasped. But this time, he didn't feel nervous or flustered at all. The old god said, Lynn, tell me, is the advantage always on his side? Definitely not. Lynn accepted his flattery with a smile. Charles's spiritual ability, maybe it really doesn't work for Chitauri, but does it also work for people in SHIELD? He glanced again at the psychic scepter in Loki's hand. It's a half smile. Mr. Loki, you really don't know much about our mutants. After a soft sigh, Lynn said calmly, You do have an army, but how do you know? As soon as the word came out, Loki broke the defense again. His expression changed drastically, and he subconsciously looked at the 5 light curtains. Chapter 99 Mutants said, Let there be light. Twist, the main battlefield. The 2 X-Men teams headed by Wolverine and Phoenix had a much higher kill efficiency than the other teams. This is normal. Iceman Bobby, Colossus, Sunspot Robert, Polaris, Twinkle Nightwalker. Each of them is an elite mutant who can act alone. With the blessing of the battle suit, the national calendar is doubled, and the copy of the training they experienced in the world of Oasis is higher and longer. Whether it is combat skills, awareness, or teamwork, it has already penetrated into the bone marrow. Plus Wolverine, Phoenix, 2 super mutants. Such a lineup is undoubtedly built by Lynn as the master. At the moment, the 8 people were fighting in 8 different directions, and they pushed all the way horizontally like chopping melons and vegetables. Not just 8 people. Phoenix's team has added a temporary non-staff member, Gwen Spider, swinging down from the tall buildings and kicking a Zeta Swiss soldier away. Gwen's face was full of doubts. Lorna, why are your battle suits all red, but Wolverine and the others are gray? It's uniform, and each squad has a different uniform color. Polaris Lorna, who was not far away from her, controlled the ubiquitous metal in the city, and replied while fighting, I don't know the specific reason. If you want to know, you can ask Senior Lynn. I've heard you say that name countless times, but I haven't seen him yet. Gwen sighed, and the cobweb boom shot out in his hand, locking the 2 Chitauri in front, and then swept with both arms, and the 2 Chitauri hit comrades one after another like meteor hammers. So, as a temporary member, why don't I have a uniform? She curled her lips in dissatisfaction and vented all her disappointment on Chitauri. And shouldn't we find a way to close the space wormhole? Why return it? While speaking, there was a deafening howl above his head. A figure of Wolverine appeared on a giant Leviathan passing by here, and saw his hands upside down, and the invisible adamantium claws pierced into the body of the giant beast like cutting tofu. The next moment, he stood on the giant beast and ran wildly. The boots under the feet are shining brightly, providing a strong driving force. A line of blood shot out from the giant beast's back, revealing long scars. For a giant beast of this size, such damage is obviously not enough to be fatal, but Phoenix, who came out of nowhere, started its power at this moment. The wound on the back of the giant Leviathan was suddenly stretched open by an invisible force. The wound became bigger and bigger, and soon became as deep as the bone. 4-2. Kin, your ability is stronger again. Wolverine 200's exclamation voice came from the communication device, mixed with a hint of doubt. They're also trained in Oasis. I can only train fighting skills. Why can you still strengthen ability? If you want to know, ask Lynn. Phoenix's faint voice came, and for some reason, it was a little different from before. Wolverine jumped up and landed on a Chitauri flight machine, and chopped off the pilot's head with one claw. There must be a secret between you. Lynn again. Gwen, who heard the conversation between the two, couldn't help but speak. Since the last time she met Phoenix and others in the Jinha group, she has become a temporary member of this team with huge amounts of curiosity. She thought that she could meet Lynn, whom several people in Phoenix would mention in their mouths, but has not been able to do so. Speaking of which, I'm also working for him. Why can't I even meet the boss? After letting out a sigh of relief, Gwen still chose to carry out the task. She went up and down and appeared in a blind corner of the ruins of a building, looking at dozens of people hiding inside. Hey, do any of you know me? Spider-Man. A little boy answered her tremblingly. Yes, I am Spider-Man. Seeing the fear in the little boy's eyes, Gwen couldn't help smiling and said, Don't worry, we will drive away these alien invaders soon. But before that, you need to find a safer place, such as a subway station. She wore a face mask, and the smile on her face was definitely not visible. But the voice of the big sister next door made the little boy relax a little. But also because it is a child, the brain circuit is relatively simple. But that, he pointed to the space wormhole in the sky. There are aliens coming out of it all the time, just like ants. With such a small number of you X-Men, can you really win? That's what Gwen wanted from him. Just relying on us definitely can't do it. We need you. Need all of you's help. As she said that, she took out a few Oasis bracelets from the string bag hanging around her waist and distributed them to the little boy and several others. Do you know Ultraman? Don't know? It's okay. Wear this bracelet, read it, lift it up when needed, and recite silently. Let there be light. There is no Ultraman in this world, so those who have not entered a copy of Oasis will definitely not know. The little boys took the bracelets in a daze, and just about to ask what is when needed, when it already left the place with a cobweb. Everyone looked at each other in blank dismay. With the idea of repelling the aliens and allowing himself to survive, he directly put on the bracelet and raised it up. Let there be light. Let there be light. Let there be light. At the same time, Iceman Poppy, Colossus, Blink, and other X-Men and all other summon mutants are doing the same thing. Twist is the world's top city with a large population, and there are quite a lot of hidden mutants. More than 500 mutants chose to stand up. Although more than half of them were Delta class and their super abilities were weak, they still stood up firmly and wanted to fight Chitauri desperately. Unexpectedly, the X-Men didn't need them to intervene in the battle at all, but just let them help the crowd to evacuate and select some people from them, by the way, to distribute the Oasis bracelets. What were they doing? In a shadowy corner, Black Widow, who had been secretly following Gwen, tapped the communicator in his ears with both fingers. Do not know. Hawkeye was on another street, also puzzled. At this critical moment in the war, they distribute game bracelets to people. Promote games? No one would do such a boring thing. Captain America's voice came. There must be something unusual about these bracelets. Could it be that they contain some kind of energy that can be used as a weapon against Chitauri? This is impossible. Black Widow and Hawkeye shook their heads at the same time. A login device for a game is going to be released globally. How could it be a weapon? How much would it cost? Besides, Mutant is crazy to provide weapons to ordinary people. Now what? It was Ant-Man Scott who said, shall we grab some wristbands and study to see what's wrong? Don't forget our mission. The Colonel of War Machine, as a soldier, has the idea of unconditionally performing the mission in his bones. Waiting for the opportunity to kill the X-Men in Twisted City is what we want to do. There was a brief silence on the communication channel. Obviously, after these first-generation members of the Avengers were controlled by the Psychic Scepter, the task Loki gave them was not to participate in the invasion, but to hide in the dark, ready to strike the X-Men at any time. So far, they've done a great job. Neither Wolverine nor Phoenix's team members seem to be aware of their existence. Seeing that it's time to start, even Black Widow and Hawkeye, who are as firm as iron and have received countless iron-blooded training, hesitated. Are you sure? We can really kill them? Captain America's voice came first. In his sight, Poppy Iceman seemed to be the god of ice, rushing into a street at an extremely fast speed, where everything around him was frozen. A total of 57 Zeta Swiss soldiers directly became ice sculptures, and the 3 flight machines that flew past in midair were no exception. Bang, 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 the ice sculptures of the 3 flight devices fell to the ground and smashed into countless scum. Another 57 ice sculptures also shattered. I don't think it can be done. Hawkeye's target is the Nightwalker. His dynamic vision is extremely powerful, and he can even hit the high-speed flight's Chitauri flight gun, but the Nightwalker's speed exceeded his expectations. With the blessing of the weird red battlesuit, he is like the wind raged everywhere. Wherever they passed, there were only one after another of Zeta Swiss soldiers who were either thrown or fell to the ground. Even so, she couldn't keep up this pace all the time. Therefore, the Eagle had faith dabbed to sneak attack and cast cold arrows, but not long ago. He clearly saw 7 or 8 Zeta Swiss soldiers firing laser weapons, hitting the Night Girl. The battle suit on the body. Except for the excitation of a light shield, it did not cause any damage. Hawkeye doesn't think his technological arrows can be more powerful than those laser weapons. So, how is this sneak attack? Perhaps we can wait a little longer? In the sight of Ant-Man, Colossus's whole body is steel, hard like an iron lump that cannot be bitten. Of course, he can get smaller and ride an ant to approach the target. But how can he break through the defense? You can't directly enter the opponent's mouth and break through from the inside, right? What if the inside of the opponent's body is also tempered? Scott's advice is great. War Machine also sighed heavily. His goal is to blink Clarice, but the blink in sight is not the same person as the blink in the SHIELD file. She was once arrested and imprisoned. Surprisingly, there are 3 solidified space doors around this woman, which surround her like a disc. All the lasers and shells fired at her were sucked in by the 3 light circles and then appeared in front of the opponent. In front of, she walked all the way, and she didn't even take the initiative to make a move, but no one could stop her pace. FK, what the hell is going on? How did these mutants become so powerful overnight? War Machine cursed fiercely and then had a flash of inspiration. Perhaps Natasha Romanoff's target is the easiest one to break through. Spider-Man? Black Widow's eyes moved slightly, but he was discouraged immediately. She is not far away, always following that green-haired mutant. SHIELDS information. Curry has no information about this person, but she can manipulate metal or maybe magnetic fields. Magneto. This news caused everyone in the communication channel to fall into silence again. Indistinctly, the voices of the people in different places suddenly came from their ears. Let there be light. Let there be light. An ominous premonition suddenly overwhelmed all human heart. We can't delay like this. Captain America yelled loudly and finally made up his mind. Everyone converges on Natasha Romanoff's position. We may not win 1-on-1, 5-on-2. We always have hope. Clear. Receive. Others jumped into action immediately. After Black Widow's continuous reporting, the 5 people quickly took their positions and locked on Gwen and Lorna from 5 different directions. Do it. Say it and do it. But at the moment, the voice faintly coming from the ear became louder and louder. Let there be light. These voices all come from ordinary people. They don't have any power at all, and they shouldn't even spread so far. But at the moment, it's like a strange prayer. Suddenly reach a certain point, then get the answer from the person you prayed for. The light really appears. All the people wearing the bracelets were stunned. They felt the slight vibration of the black bracelet. Actually, the device was activated, and they also saw a bright light suddenly appearing in the bracelet. Light. This light is very faint, but at the moment, it suddenly seems to be connected with other bracelets in Twisted City, and the faint rays of light seem to converge into a cloud, like a sunset cage covering the whole city. The process of activating the Oasis bracelet is actually the process of soul binding. In this process, there will naturally be a trace of soul power. A person's soul power is extremely weak, but at this moment, there are about 1,000 bracelets scattered throughout the city. The soul power of thousands of ordinary people is still very weak, but it happened to meet the requirements for opening the magic circle. Yes, long before the X-Men killed the Chitauri army, They had already installed 6 magic devices on the outskirts of the city. At the moment, the 6 bases are finally activated. Boom! The ground trembled without warning, and the next moment, the people fleeing everywhere saw inconceivably that 6 beams of light shot up into the sky from the outskirts of the city, converging in the sky, gather, and turn into a huge amounts of hexagram. Immediately after, in the park, on the side of the street, in the forest, the trees suddenly soared, and they rose from the ground as if they were alive, turning into tree people one after another, going towards the Zeta Swiss music that is spread all over the city. At first, their walking postures were very strange, and they didn't seem to adapt. But soon, one by one ran wildly, and, in the process, some treants leaped high and turned into giant bears in the air. Great crab special. The tree man turned into a bear. Drew it. Am I dreaming? This scene was so spectacular that countless fleeing crowd couldn't help but stop and exclaim in disbelief. Behind the army of treants and giant bears, there are countless flying birds that grow wildly in size. Densely packed, tens of thousands. This is an army. Captain America and others witnessed this scene with their own eyes, and they were all stunned on the spot. Before they came over, the voice of Professor X sounded in their minds. Everyone, the time to counterattack has come. Counterattack? Counterattack who? Our mission is to kill the X-Men. Wait, I am a superhero of Avengers. I should protect the Earth. In just an instant, the few people controlled by the psychic scepter were awakened by Professor X. But there was no trace of joy on their faces, because the picture in front of them is beyond their cognition. And it seems to mean the Avengers they have worked so hard to build don't even have a little bit of X-Men background facing Loki. They almost completely fell. And Mutant, there was an army. Did Nick Fury say, "Beware of mutants"? In the communication channel, I don't know who said, "Just because we are qualified to be vigilant against them." No response. At this moment, they unconsciously recalled the prayers they heard just now in their minds. Is hope. And this hope is brought by Mutant. It's going to change. Still not knowing who it was, he murmured softly. Still no response. For Mutant, all this seems not to be a war at all. It's just an opportunity to step onto the stage of history. Chapter 100, Give the Opponent a Chance. Inside the Stark building. You actually have an army? Loki held the hand of the psychic scepter, trembling violently, unconsciously. In his line of sight, he clearly saw the 6-pointed star magic circle gathered in the sky, and soon saw a huge amount of bird army, like Kedavra, military doctor who rides the wind and waves. And that's just what's happening in New York City Dash. In the other 4 light curtains, a similar picture also appeared. In Voodoo City, the 6-pointed star magic array is like a cloud composed of raging flames, and one after another fire elemental elves jumped out of the cluster. In a neon battlefield, the water vapor in the surrounding sea area condenses crazily, and under the action of the magic circle, it turns into water elemental spirits one after another, what appeared on the Australian battlefield were earth elemental elves crawling out of the ground. What happened in Palchung was even more strange. The golden light of the magic circle shrouded the cars, and it seemed to endow the cars with life. In a short period of time, hundreds of cars turned into human forms and joined the X-Men team. True magic version, shape-shifting King Kong. 6 rings summoning system gate of elements. Magic, where Loki still doesn't understand the root of all this. Looking at Lynn's eyes again, the earth-shaking changes have already taken place. All the contempt, fear, horror all disappeared. Instead, anger, and not outrage that his plans were about to fail, but because such a scene, as a #1 magician in the 9 realms, he can't do it. How could a mutant magician be so powerful? For a moment, with Loki's pride and arrogance, he couldn't help feeling a creepy feeling, and an unbelievable thought subconsciously popped up in his mind. Why didn't Thanos come in person? Is it possible that the achievement is due to fear of mutant? This invasion is simply a mutual test between Mia and Mutant. Thinking of this, Loki couldn't help trembling. With his IQ, he could see that Chitauri was just a pawn that Thanos casually played. Naturally, he could also see that Lynn's pawn was equally easy comfortable. Come at your fingertips. Only 7 X-Men squads were dispatched from start to finish. The strongest mutant Professor X and Magneto have never appeared. Obviously, there's a magic army, but it has been unable to hide it until the 5 cities were hit hard and the critical moment of human life and death was finally exposed. The most important thing is that the magic circle can be activated directly. However, he chose a more time-consuming and labor-intensive method, distributing the weird black bracelets to ordinary humans, making those people think that the activation of the magic circle has something to do with their prayers. Hawkeye seems to have told me that the black wristband turned out to be a game login device, and that game was developed by Mutant. What combining all these pieces of information? Loki only felt an unparalleled absurdity. The large-scale dispatch of Mutant this time may not be to deal with the invasion of the Chitauri army at all. It's for training, for fame, to promote Oasis. In the process, harvest a group of hidden mutants, by the way. That's all. This is outrageous. It's really a good plan. I have worked hard to plan Chitauri's attack without any loss, in a life-and-death war for the people on Earth. In the eyes of Mutant. No, it is in this mutant in the eyes of the magician. Loki's eyes were scarlet, and he stared at Lynn. It turned out to be just a chance to strengthen mutant strength. The universe is like a chessboard. Thanos is the chess player, and Lynn is the chess player. Is it really just a pawn? Thinking of this, Loki's heart was vented all of a sudden, and a sense of frustration that he had never felt before came to his heart. The remaining trace of pride made him roar unwillingly. What if you have 5 magic armies? Tesseract's energy is inexhaustible, and these 5 space wormholes will always exist. In this way, the Chitauri army will continue to flow endlessly. How long can your magic circle last? How long can the X-Men and Mutant last in this intensity of fighting? In fact, at the moment, he had already vaguely guessed that the energy shield outside the Stark building might not be able to stop Lynn. But he still had a little fantasy. After all, this is Tesseract. Tony was in shock because of the sudden appearance of the 5 magic armies. And at this moment, he suddenly woke up. Yes, Lynn, we must find a way to break the seal. Otherwise, this war will only be endless. He was obviously not the only one who could see the key to the outcome of this war. As soon as the voice fell, there was a whistling sound in the distant sky. Woohoo! A pyro appeared suddenly and rushed towards the Stark building at a super fast speed. Get out of the way, Johnny Stone. I'm going to save the world. Pyro came rushing forward, and he didn't dodge at all. However, the Chitauri flight weapons he collided with all turned into fireballs and exploded in the air. Next moment, boom! With a loud bang, Pyro crashed directly into the Tesseract's energy shield. The energy shield did not produce the slightest ripple, but the flames on his body were scattered on the spot, revealing a young figure in a blue uniform. Yin Ping fell downward. Tony bared his teeth. Through the energy shield, he could feel the severe pain of the opponent's impact, and he couldn't help but look at Lynn. Your man? Lynn shook her head. Stupid earthlings. Loki sneered. He was beaten to pieces by Lynn just now. Seeing this fireman's reckless behavior, inexplicably regained some sense of superiority. 0 for flowers. Hey, my friend, it's not a good habit to speak ill of people behind their backs. Johnny Stone turned into a burning man and flew up the moment he fell to the ground. He carefully looked at the situation inside and outside the energy shield, especially glanced at the sofa under Lynn, with a confused expression on his face. Although I don't know what happened here, but the Earth is now being invaded by aliens. A man named Nick Fury, the guy, asked us Fantastic Four to help. So, who can tell me? How can I break this damn hood? Then close that damn space wormhole. He pointed to the energy shield and then to the sky. Ming's expression is extremely anxious. The tone of voice gives people a sense of frivolity and laxity. Nick Fury's back. Loki's face changed again, but before he could react, thunder suddenly rolled in the sky, and another figure roared through the air, appearing in sight. Thor came to. Loki. Seeing that Loki was safe and sound, he first breathed a sigh of relief, and then said fiercely, Close this transmission channel quickly, or the Earth will be destroyed, and you'll be a sinner through the ages. Loki glances at him. If it was before, he would definitely share the joy of victory with his big brother. But at the moment, after Lynn's repeated blows, he is too lazy to talk nonsense with Thor. The Tesseract is right there. He pointed to the top of his head, with a wicked smile on the corner of his mouth. If you have the ability, go and close the passage yourself. The meow hammer hit the energy shield almost immediately. But it was just a layer of ripples. Seeing this, Tony felt a little disappointed with Thor, a new member of the Avengers. This energy shield is integrated with the space channel created by the Tesseract. It cannot be broken by barbaric causes alone. The power of space. Thor's eyes lit up, but then dimmed again. If Bifrost is still there. Read, Susan, did you all hear that? Johnny Stone, Thunderbolt, saw Thor's expression and knew that he was talking nonsense. So he quickly raised his right hand and touched the earphone. Quickly use your smart brains and think of a way. On the other side of the communicator, there were chaotic and noisy voices from MR, Fantastic, the Invisible Woman, and the Stone Man. Faintly, there seems to be Nick Fury. It seems that neither the Avengers nor the so-called Fantastic Four can do anything for the time being. Loki kept staring at Lynn. Seeing this scene, he smiled more freely, as if his confidence had returned to his body. Mr. Lynn, you are the first to come, but you have never tried to break the seal. Do you have no confidence? Or are you waiting for some opportunity? Lynn wasn't waiting for anything. Only this time, he wanted to give Mutant's opponent a chance. One, the opportunist who wiped out all the X-Men.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.